When America falls, it might take the entire world with it.
Who controls media?
Money. White people said no.
You can't be a great black man in America without a great black woman.
The biggest problem with masculinity is that I'm tired of this.
I force people to respect me, but it's probably not the black man that they want. It's the black man that you may need. It's the one that comes to shake things up. It's the one that make you feel uncomfortable sometimes.
I appreciate my pops for teaching me how to be a guy.
From a boy to a man, and ultimately back into the natural state of being into a God.
As guys, we're supposed to always move with that higher self.
But I had to be able to execute it. Having knowledge is not power, the execution of knowledge is power.
Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Because the only real knowledge you can get is knowledge of self.
This is the highest level. The highest level is ownership. The highest level is power. The highest level is sovereignty. The highest level is higher consciousness. The highest level is when we own our own culture.
Excellence at a very high level. Appreciate it. Not eye level. A high level. Like that.
It's time for a high level conversation.
We're here for another high level conversation.
19 keys, and this is a high level conversation. Tap in with the God.
Well, welcome to another episode of High Level Conversations. In the world, there are a lot of mythos about Black America, about culture, about Black men, about media, about life, right? About masculinity, about just about everything. But what is the reality of it? The reality of it is what we actually experience, right? And each person has a different perspective based on their experiences that they construct that becomes their truth. And the dominant truth are the experiences that the most people have that they can relate with. Sometimes they're influenced to believe that that's their experience when it's not. Because we have this ability to get on media and we can control minds by simply telling the story a certain way, appealing to emotions. There are clubs within our culture that everybody is not privy to, right? Sometimes the club is just information. Right? Sometimes it's an actual club that you can't get in. It's networks that you can't get access to regardless because those clubs have decided that we don't need you or your services are not welcome or you're not big enough, right? And it's mythos of the Black American experience. I believe that we're still trying to construct what is the actual truth that we want to move forward to and what is the future we want to have because we haven't took a consensus to say, this is the Black American future that we want. So we're still learning, we're still pulling from each other. We're still, which I believe is going to a natural and organic phases of an immature growth spurt into what we want to be in the future. But the problem is that there's a lot of disruptions. And those disruptions are political, scientific, technological, right? They're psychological. There are many disruptions on our path to growing up. And we feel like we are individuals as a part of a collective. But at the same time, there's no true collective. There are numbers that we put on paper that say represents the collective, but there's no longer a walk outside, hey brother, hey sis. That doesn't exist as our culture. Not yet. But there are people within the culture that we call this culture that I believe are voices that are necessary, that are outspoken, that are challenging, that comes from different sides, different perspectives, that are sometimes spooks who are able to give the game and then go build something themselves that can represent possibly the future that we want. When I think about those voices in this world, there are a few of them that come to mind, right? And I think that we don't realize how small this club is of the Black voices that represent from a mainstream level, right? The person that I have on today, I believe, is one of those voices. His voices has created, I think, moments in our history that will further the trajectory of where we want to be and challenge the trajectory of where we are, right? Van Jones.
You got me. Well, I'm sitting here like, boy, this is some high praise from my team, but you brought me back. You gotta do that. You gotta bring me back down.
I'm just kidding. Van Lathan. He's one of our bald-headed Black men you know, that that represent us in media and represent us in culture. And I think that he also has a strength that is not often defined and appreciated, because we don't really look at the different array of colors and spectrums of black men on this planet Earth and really appreciate them. I don't think we do that at all. We pick what is the archetype that it's supposed to be. And usually if you don't fit within that, then we don't respect you. If you're not Democrat, if you're not Republican, if you're not this, that, or the third. So I know for myself, coming from a background where I force people to respect me, but it's probably not the black man that they want, right? It's the black man that you may need. It's the one that comes to shake things up. It's the one that make you feel uncomfortable sometimes. But you like, I don't know. You're challenging my sensibilities. You challenging my level of comfortability when I just got in this room and start shaking hands and smiling with these folks, and here you come to make me feel like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So, but my whole thing is that's not your problem with me. It's your problem with yourself. Because you should be comfortable with whatever you're doing, regardless of who's in the room.
Right.
Right? And ever since I met you, you've always given me high praise. And I appreciated that. I believe it was an article in the Rolling Stone.
Can't remember.
I think it was Rolling Stone
it might have been, talking about when I was talking about you?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Interview Mag, I think it was.
Yeah.
Might have been Interview Mag. It might have been Interview Mag. I can't remember. It was like around the first time of the pandemic. I can't remember.
Yeah. And I didn't really know the brother from anything, but he gave me high praise as a thought leader and a coach. And it was one of the first times somebody, I think in the media, if you will, had given me any accolades whatsoever. So I always appreciated you since that day. And I just believe that you represent a different nuance, because I think I never think ignorance when I think of you, right? Regardless of what perspective you're given, I know you know the other side of it, right? And when I see that, I can respect a person. Ignorance is hard to respect because a lot of times the ignorance is done intentional. People don't want to know the other side. They only want their side for their agenda so they can continue to push whatever they're pushing. But when I know you like, I might be saying this, but I also understand all of this context around it. Right. Now I know that that's a man, because a man moves in logic, right? A man that doesn't want to understand, I can't trust. I can't even believe in, I can't rock with. I can't just sit around and have conversations, because you're intentionally and willful denying an aspect of yourself, because that part of yourself will make you man up and move towards the truth that you know.
Word.
Welcome to High Level Conversations.
Boy, good with them words.
Let me ask you a question, man.
Sure.
I was thinking about America and America's future. And I was having a conversation with my brother Steve on our Man to Man show. And we was talking about, and I had this conversation with Rashad as well from UIL, and we was talking about America is going to be like Great Britain. Right? Becoming a relic of their once glorious past, if you will. If you go over to Paris and you look at the buildings, right? This beautiful architecture, just the old rusted Eiffel Tower, but the culture that's there now is the culture that's imported, the fashion shows and things of that nature. It's no longer a glorious nation, right? And America is in this phase of the fall of America, to where I believe that it's going to be a relic of its past, right? Especially when you think about technology and innovation. In the roaring 20s, the American spirit of the individual was innovation, that we're going to create, we're going to invent, we're going to do all these things. It was a renaissance. That was the American spirit. The American spirit today is civil disobedience, civil war, right? Issues, problems, fear, right? This is the sentiment of the day, even though we're in this great time of technology. And I think that's partially because individuals no longer even get credit for any innovation in America's corporations. America is no longer about the individual. All the news that's spread is about the corporate success. Microsoft reached 3 trillion, Apple reached 1 trillion, Elon trillions. It's no longer about the people, right? The American people has been taken out of the equation of America. And so the American people's spirit is no longer involved in America. So that American spirit has died off. And now all we have is American oligarchies and American corporatism and things of that nature. So what do you think is the future of America?
That's very well laid out. I don't think that there's much future going the way things are going right now. There are too many emperors that are naked. Too many emperors with no clothes on. Nothing about the country right now is real. And so the way, to me, societies run, they're based on the fundamentals of those societies. And the fundamentals of those societies are always going to be stable homes, workers, the ability to move up, and the ability to have skin in the game, right? This is meme, I know you've seen it, the difference between boss and leader. I'm sure you've seen that. Excuse me, the boss is somebody up there telling you to do something, the leader is down there with you. The real genius about that meme is they're saying the difference between boss and leader is connection, right? A boss is disconnected on high telling you what they need to do so that you can enrich them. A leader is one of you that you've put your faith into, that you've decided can take you to the next place. But you guys are essentially the same, right? America has become a nation of bosses, devoid of leaders. Because in order to be a leader, the elitism, the people have to feel that your interests and their interests are aligned. They have to feel that like what's good for you is good for them, and what's good for them is good for you. They know that that's not true now. There's been enough perversion of financial markets. There's been enough social and political unrest. There's been enough marginalization of people to where they know that that's not true. But what they are waiting for, what everyone is always waiting for, in any time when things are bad, is the emergence of leadership. They're waiting for someone who can come and actually be that. It's not too late. And I actually have a lot of hope that through conversation, work, toil, sacrifice, that there is a very capable generation of leaders who can look at society, look at culture, and if not fix it, like make it anew to where things don't devolve. And I'll tell you why I think that's important. When America falls, it might take the entire world with it. Because when you look at the very specific attitude of Western European dominance, which America is the poster child for, the death rattle there is always destructive. When during the French Revolution, when the people took control of France and France fell, some heads rolled, right? It changed some things. It had reverberations all over the place. Some of these other places, when Britain fell, there was some political upheaval, colonialism or imperialism around the world fell. When America falls, there are going to be people here that are really going to believe that the civilized world doesn't deserve to exist if America isn't at the head of the table. And there's a deep psychosis of particularly white American supremacy that I think would rebel to the last cell in their body and really hurt a lot of people and damage a lot of things. I'm talking about global financial systems. I'm talking about just straight up warfare. I'm talking about social orders all over the place, geopolitical disruption. And so the decline of America is, while it may be imminent, I'm hoping for the sake of the people in my community and for the sake of the world community that someone can at least stem the tide.
You know, it's interesting, as you were giving the breakdown of the boss and the leader about connection, it actually makes me think about Donald Trump and Biden. And I believe that's why Trump's base rocks with him, because they feel like he's a leader. And where Biden has zero connection, right? They feels like he just represents the old guard and the boss. What's true doesn't matter in these circumstances when we talk about politics.
It matters how you feel.
It matters how you feel. And especially if the people feel that the agenda of their leader is in connection with them, because you're going against the status quo. You see all these people coming against you. And this is how the people feel today. They feel like they're overtaxed. They feel like the quality of living has decreased in America. They feel like they have allowed foreign interests to completely take over and control America. And so for them, Trump represents some of that old guard again, right? Some of those so-called American values. And they feel like, wait a minute, if you're against the government and we want the government to change, then you must be one of us. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like, as you laid that out, I've never really contextualized or tried to articulate the true reason why so many people are ready to get on board with Donald Trump over Joe Biden. And it's also partially of the fact that the Democrats are kind of just handing it to him because they're not trying to even lay out a leader, right? I think their desperation is seeping very high during this particular election. And they don't have any new tactics. It just seems like the old playbook, and it seems like you're not giving us anything to go for, not even any new talking points. And it almost makes me look at the people who usually politically rally for Democrats, and it's like, you're not even giving them much to go off of now, right? And it's actually destroying them and that connection they have with their base, because it's like, yeah, when you have to lay out a point and then be like, okay, I get what you guys are saying, but still, it's like, no, connect with me. You know what I mean? You just heard what I said as my issue with them. And then you telling me that regardless of my issue, right, regardless of the logic of it, regardless of how I feel, I should still go this way without them having to give me anything, right, to remedy any of my problems with them.
Right.
And I think that the Democrats are doing the worst job that I've seen them do in history when it comes to campaigning against the Republican nominee or, person. I'm not a political person. I don't even know all these words.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, obviously you're not wrong. So the real problem is this. Mark Twain quote, "It's not what you don't know that'll get you. It's what you're absolutely sure of that just ain't so." Right? Think about it all the time. Humbles me. It's not what you don't know. It's what you really do know that's just a lie. Right? And when I think about politics through that spectrum, I think about what the American public thinks they know. Like, what do they think that they know? Like, what do Trump supporters think that they know? What do Democrats think that they know? What do they think that they know? They're sure of it, right? They're sure that the left is a party of inclusion, a party of progress, a party of trailblazing. They're sure of it. But what if that's not the case? What if what you really are dealing with is two wings of corporate politicians who, because of money in politics and because of changing American priorities, don't have any sort of interest into anything other than maintaining power, right? And if people feel that, you're not, we talk about taxes, right? I was talking to a friend of mine, really rich, because you know all the rich people. Like,
Not at all.
Like I was talking to a friend of mine. I was talking to a friend of mine, really rich, very wealthy guy, and he said something to me. He goes, I'm getting taxed, and you start doing a little bit better, and they hit your pockets, right? It happens. So he's like, it's not that I have a problem with the rate that I'm being taxed at. It's that I don't know what the money is doing. It's that I don't know where it's going. If you could tell me right now that the tax rate that I'm paying is benefiting people, if you could tell me right now that this money isn't being wasted, that there's some kid eating because of it, that there's some education program being started because of it, that someone is getting health care because of it. If you could tell me right now that I'm actually investing back into America, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I know intellectually that they're f***ing it off. Like, I know that it's building bombs to drop on brown people somewhere. I know that that's where the majority of the money is going. And so I say all that to say that what the Democrats have to do, to me, I intellectually know that the base of the Republican Party is so viciously racist, right? That they would shoot themselves in the foot before really letting too many people in. I'm from the Deep South. And so being from the Deep South, I know that there's a psychosis, and that psychosis exists, and it's as simple as this. This is the psychosis. We ain't with no. That's the psychosis. And even that's something that had to be cultivated in America to maintain the capitalist order that existed here. So when the Pope first says, hey, go to Africa, get the black people, that's okay, right? Well, you're going to do that, right? And at some point, you're going to grab somebody from Africa, right? First of all, you see these people and you know that there's something about them. So there's a threat there imminently, right? But when you start grabbing those people, you see a mother being separated from her kid. You see a father. You see all of this carnage and this danger. And the God inside of you, God exists inside of everyone, knows it's wrong. The white man put himself in a trick bag because over generations, he had to actually con himself into believing that people were subhuman in order to maintain their capitalist status quo that they had here in America, right? I'm saying that has a beginning, but what I'm saying is that it's real. And now there are people that just don't want to be around black people. They just don't. Like I've been around, they just don't want to be around black people. If that's the base of your party, it's going to be difficult for you to actually serve those people unless it benefits you in certain ways.
What about people that will say, well, that is the base of the Democratic Party, though?
You could say that too.
Well, it is, though, like as a factual thing.
In terms of what?
As the Democrats started as the white supremacy party.
Right, for sure.
Right? You go back to Wilmington, North Carolina, right, when they was destroying black towns because they were afraid, right, of the rise of black America.
Right.
Right?
I like the crash the cost. Is that Keys?
Yeah.
What's your name, brother?
My name's Cedric Harrison, man.
Cedric Harrison?
Yeah, that's my tour business right there. Women's of Color, but yeah.
It's a big blessing. Big blessing for the city, man. 19 keys. We need this. Word. Keys for mayor, man.
That's amazing.
Might be people's.
Because of the tragic event that happened in 1898, racial violence that we all know about from all over the nation, but the uniqueness of taking away our political power, nothing has ever been put in place to repair those effects. And so this is what I've been doing on my journey to try to repair, right? Because with repair is education and economics. And so I literally built the business around teaching the history of the uniqueness of my city and how it is very much so effective to the whole entire nation. And so we want to bring the brother 19 Keys here and use the wonderful world global platform that he has to put a spotlight on it, because what he's talking about is aligned right with the things that people had to sacrifice, the things that people had to go out and grab and learn and soak in to come back and build and create the things that they created that we get to tell people about now on the tour bus.
Specifically, the fear that they had. Not of us doing anything to them, but us being left alone to do our own thing.
Right.
Right? And then we had our own political parties that we had ties to that we were winning. And they started utilizing the media against black people. And in that utilization of the media, they put out all these lies and they stoked fears that black men were taking all the white women. Right? And then one of the brothers, I forget his name, but he owned a newspaper at the time, and he had, I think he waited, or they took an article that he had wrote when it was saying that they coming after us, we ain't going after them. You know what I'm saying? Right. But they took that, I think maybe 2 years later or something, and they printed it because a lot of white folks, they didn't have a great literacy rate, but they understand propaganda cartoons.
They can see the picture.
They pushed it out there.
Right.
So it's like when you go into that, probably up to the 1960s, right after JFK was killed, and then you start to see a switch of the Democrats and the Republicans. That's what most people say. I think the foundation of the party is not truthfully spoken about, in the sense that when you talk about Republicans and Democrats in this country, you know, people like Democrats started off from a base of racism as well.
Sure. That
has never truly been uprooted, but I feel like the reality of it is it went quiet, but it still existed in the policies.
So this is what I would say to that. I would say, when I say base, I mean the people who make up the base of the party. The history of the Democratic Party certainly is white supremacy. They started the KKK, right? And the Republicans, particularly the radical Republicans, if we're just talking politics here, guys like Thaddeus Stevens, all of that, the 7 missing years after slavery, all of that was led by Republicans. PBS Pitchback, first black governor of Louisiana, all of those guys were black Republicans. The switch happened based upon a lot of things, really more after World War II, but it happened, right? What happened was, for whatever reason, be it New Deal politics, be it poor white planters so FDR is a Democrat. The New Deal, the New Deal comes out. He has the New Deal, sweeping social programs to get people out of the Depression. Well, a lot of those New Deal policies were going to benefit black people. They don't want to do that. They just don't. The South chose, the southern part of the United States, it chose poverty over equality. It chose that because if a black man had to get something, if a black man had to benefit, if a black woman had to benefit, we would rather not have it. We would literally rather not have it. Or we would rather drip it to the point to where it is so watered down that there's no possible way for it to actually affect the amount of people that it was supposed to affect. The change in strategy, Dr. King, Medgar Evers, all of these guys, they got Democrats to act on behalf of black people. Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, things like that. They got them to do that. That happened. Doesn't mean that the party doesn't have a racist history. What I would say right now is really the strongest base of the Democratic Party are black women. Black women vote the highest numbers for the Democrats. They are the surest voting bloc for the Democrats. If you go out there right now, black women are going to vote for Democrats 97% out of the time. Black men a little bit less than that. So the base of the party certainly isn't racist against black people.
Do you think, not to cut your wisdom, but do you think that black women's agenda is aligned with black men agenda in today's time politically?
No, not wholly. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Some of them are demographic. For example, these are just statistics. You have a higher chance of being liberal minded if you went to college. Colleges foster liberal thought. They're liberal places, liberal expression. Black women are going to college at higher rates than black men. So black men are finding their way into entrepreneurship more. They're finding their way. There's a cultural conversation about whether me and you had a conversation on IG about whether or not people need to go to college, and your people tore my ass up. But so
which is a nuanced conversation. I hate comment conversations because first of all, once I get a full thought, I don't feel like typing it all the way out.
Yeah,
and nobody's gonna read that. So you never get you try to condense as much in a small point as possible, which can never cover even your agreements and disagreements with the person you're talking to.
Yeah. So there are reasons why that's happening, and just for all kinds of reasons that are demographic and cultural, it's just not, it's not the same. Like sisters are really, really doubling and tripling down on college education. And that in and of itself, when those two things aren't aligned, it's just going to change the way people see the world.
And your values.
And your values, right? It's going to change the way you see the world. It's going to change the way your values. So then there's a lot more work that has to be done just like in the community to keep those bonds together. I'm like, man, let's open the community center and just have a mixer. It's like a singles. I'm not talking about the club. I'm talking about everybody come around and we just hang out and talk.
I think I might start doing some of them networking events.
Yeah, just let people find each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
but to that point though, because I say that because when people speak about, let's say, black women being a part of the Democratic Party and things of that nature, and I think it was a white guy, he had praised the question, like, if black women are always blaming white supremacy, why do they always marry white men? Right? That was the question that he had posed on it.
Why do black women marry white men?
We're talking about the ones in politics.
Oh, okay.
So he was specifically talking about those Summers and, the ones that's in politics. Yeah. He started to list off a bunch of them. He was like, they all have white male spouses, but then they will go and say white men are the issue. And it's not to say that it's not true, right? But it does speak towards when we speak upon black women being part of the Democratic, especially when we speaking to black men, where it's like, yeah, I get that, but their values and their agenda is different than what I would want for the country, right? So it's no longer this connected thing to be like, oh, that's black people. No, that's black women specifically, this new group of black women who are educated and who now have different values and different ways that they want to go about living and different things that are important to them in the system, right, that they want to change. And so we are politically disconnected for the first time in history.
Right.
Right. Where what you want and what I want is completely different. And so there's no longer this thing where you can say, hey, black women are formed and that represents black people, or black men is formed and that represents black people. It's like, no, you got to now break down these nuances. These are new voter groups because they're in a completely new place in history and time now.
Right. I agree. What I would say is that black people and their affiliation with the Democratic Party is problematic to me. Like, I left the Democratic Party some time ago. I just need a return. You know, I'm a liberal. Dyed in the wool. Everybody knows
kind
that.
of ROI.
Like everybody knows I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal. I'm a bleeding heart liberal. You get me talking, you're gonna not like some of the things that you. But what I do, I'm also a serious person, and so like I need to be taken seriously. So I go to a restaurant, right? The waiter comes out. The waiter's nice. Let's make the waiter. The server is a beautiful woman. Beautiful woman, right? Gorgeous woman. Love looking at her, love talking to her. She's beautiful, she's interesting, she's all of that. At some point, I gotta get my food brought to me.
Yeah. At some point, like, all right, listen.
Like, you know what I mean? You can talk.
Food at,
you can talk nice. You can look nice.
That's a good analogy.
It could be all of that. At some point, I gotta get my food.
Yeah.
And if I don't get my food, I gotta go eat somewhere else, or we have to have a serious conversation about what to hold up in the kitchen.
Well, Biden did bring chicken to them black people.
Yeah, he brought some cookout. So what I'm saying is, if there's a problem in the kitchen that's stopping us from eating, we at least gotta be able to talk to our elected officials about what the problem is.
Right.
And any questioning of the left or the Democrats cannot be seen as bending the knee to MAGA or embracing Donald Trump or his white nationalist wing of American future in politics. We have got to be able to have a conversation where we prioritize ourselves and not our debt.
That I 100% agree with you, because it stalls the conversation and it doesn't allow it to be had, because the moment you agree with something that Trump says, the problem is not what Trump said, it's what y'all didn't say. If Trump says that he's against CBDC coins and black people are like, yo, okay, I'm agreeing with limited government control of our money as well. Then you'll be like, but what about all the other things? And it's like, no, the point is we will want Joe Biden to say that, or the other candidates to say that as well. So when you're not able to logically agree with somebody on nuanced points, because I'm supposed to be wholeheartedly with you regardless, because your campaign is anything but Trump, you don't even leave room for a person to have discussion, right? Now you become like a dictator of my opinion, my thoughts, my ideas, and then that could make a person vote against you, period, because you telling me that I'm just supposed to go with you just because, whether my food comes out or not. I'm supposed to just rock with you. You know what I mean? The goddamn building could be on fire, and I'm still supposed to rock with you, because you gonna tell me what somebody else did. At some point in time, your lack of doing anything for me is worse what they're doing to me.
Here's the thing with you. You're unafraid. So being unafraid changes the way you look at things. So for people, we talked about this on the podcast not too long ago. For people that have been so assailed in the time that they've been here, you know, for people that have been so murdered, raped, butchered, for black people, and you know, it's very important for people to understand the history. There's a great book called From Here to Equality by Dr. Sandy Darity that talks about the case for reparations. And a good thing that the book lays out is not just why reparations are owed for slavery and Jim Crow, but the attempts that black people made to realize the American dream, the land ownership that black people went out and got. But more black people owned land in 1905 than they own now. They went out and they bought land. They went out and they did the thing. They established colleges. They did all of this stuff. Everything that you were supposed to do in order to see ascension in America, like black people did it.
You're right.
And every time they did it, I hate to be this binary with it. Every time they did it, white people said no.
Right.
And I don't want to get into a whole boogeyman situation here because this is high level conversation.
Well, I think that's where the people that are what they call the right, the Republicans, I think that's where they fail in their conversation, is they never acknowledge that.
Right. So there's this idea of laziness and shiftlessness. Nah, man, banks, schools, hospital, land ownership, all of that. And every time, no, whether it was terrorism, whether it was usury, contract buying schemes, whether it was urban renewal, we're going to take what you have and make sure you don't have nothing. We don't want to share the country with you. And the only reason why I say that is because when you have that history, that trauma, safety feels like the goal. To me, safety is not the goal, power is, right?
Yeah, it is.
And so safety feels like the goal. So anybody that can give you the illusion of safety, any place where you feel safe and you feel seen is where you'll go. So if it feels safer with the Democrats, right? Because you know that the other side won't even acknowledge the fact that they tried to kill you, acknowledge the fact of slavery, acknowledge all of these things. They won't even talk about that. So immediately our trauma response is unsafe, have to stop them. And so if you, who is unafraid, or anyone who is unafraid, has a conversation that goes, yeah, but what I want to do is build generational wealth, change my community, do all of these things. And I'm looking at the best option to do that. I don't feel unsafe. I'm strapped up. I got the knowledge in my head. I got the people around me. I don't feel unsafe. Like what I want is to build on what we're supposed to be building on. There's going to be a glitch in the conversation that you have with someone. And I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I'm just saying sometimes when I talk to people, I have to say, okay, straight up. All right. You think that my criticism of the party that I typically caucus with, you think that my criticism of the party empowers evil. All right. Let me tell you what I'm trying to do. I come from a place where, and I don't want to get all emotional and off the, but like where I come from, just to be honest with you, I'm sick of it. Everybody dies of cancer. People get murdered. Everybody in jail. Like, I'm tired of this. I buried my uncle a couple of weeks ago. I didn't bury my dad. I didn't bury my other uncle. I'm sick of it. There's got to be a way around it.
Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be the normal. Like, I can relate to everything that you said, and I shouldn't. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be my reality. I shouldn't relate to having dozens of people dead. I shouldn't relate to most of my family dying from diabetes or cancer.
Yeah.
I shouldn't relate to all of the trauma, but I have all of that connection in common with anybody else in America who has that.
Right.
And because that aspect of it is left out of politics, it's never spoken to, right? Specifically, the black male plight in America is never spoken to in a real way. Otherwise, there would be cancer marches for black men. There aren't none, but we got the highest rate, right? So how is it that black men are not even in the conversation when we talk about it? How many celebrities have we lost to cancer? Yet we somehow don't get put into the brand of these whatsoever. So black men and our issues and our struggles, which you can categorically look at the statistics in America and you can see we're at the forefront of all of them, but we're not the face of none of them.
Right.
So it don't even feel like you're talking to us. So it's like, nah, the decisions that I make are made by things that you don't even know exist and you ignoring the existence of. So a lot of times when black men in the hood, our realities or in the streets or even in the corporates, most of the time black men never speak about it because that lack of safety is just lack of space. Like there's no space to have a conversation anywhere, at least where it matters or it makes a change. So it becomes complaining when I speak about my problems and there's nothing to be done from it, right? So you're going to tell me to vote, but what I'm really voting for is everybody else's agenda because mine is not even in the pot of problems.
Right.
So it feels like...
And for you to be more powerful.
Right.
For you to continue your dynasty that you have. Yeah.
100%. So it feels like, what am I doing it for? I know it's going to make you feel more comfortable and you feel more safe. And it's like you're telling me that it's now my responsibility to be in alignment with you. But there's no conversation about my alignment at all. I speak about the diversity factor that we talk about a lot, right? The diversity factor, the fact that when we talk about diversity in America, we speak about it in a way where we categorize what diversity is diversity. As a black male Muslim, I'm diversity. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's not put into the category. A Hebrew, an Israelite, or you know, Moorish, that's diversity. But you don't see that in movie, right? You don't see that in politics. You don't see no representation of it whatsoever in America. But we've been in America longer and have contributed more than any other, you know, group of people in America. Yet it hasn't been spoken to or cared about. And anytime that we've done things, we are the messiahs that are the sacrifices for the rest of the world to build their platforms on, right? But then people act like Martin Luther King was a black man, right? He first woke up as a black man and seen the world from that perspective, right? So you don't get to build your entire platform while ignoring the black man himself. Malcolm X, a black man. All of these leaders, these were black men. Of course, they had women with them.
Yeah, women definitely contributed.
100%, because you can't be a great black man in America without a great black woman.
Right.
And I say great black woman because the contribution of the woman that is with you, she's also picked by God, if you're picked by God, to go alongside with you.
Right.
You just have a face front more position in the mission that you all have. But the partner with you along that journey is just as important as the person that's in front of it. But I only say all that to say that, yeah, black men never feel like our voice is truly heard. And so when we do come from positions of, I know it's unsafe out there, it's just courage. I got to face reality. Reality is not going to change because I fear it. So it'll be better quality of life if I go with the flow of knowing what's happening out there and still making my moves. I think Thomas Sowell, which is somebody I don't particularly agree with on everything,
but I've read him.
He makes great cases.
Yeah, I read him.
He makes the great case about, how does anybody advance in America? And he says by gaining the skills that people want to pay for. And he really attacks culture a lot, right? Which culture cannot be taken out of because now we have an anti-culture, anti-family, right? Mental health and mindfulness, right? Is really anti-economic growth because they talk about frivolous spending on things that aren't good for you. It's anti-education. So even when I talk about education, I'm not against education. I talk about the experience in the college institution and the debt that comes along with it versus the education that develops the skill set or the mindset that allows you to progress in society. That's completely different, but people don't like having two conversations at once. They think things have to be black and white. I'm brown,
right?
So I'll never have that conversation.
So there's
look, this right here, crazy. Disclaimer. Don't take this if you don't want to have a super day. I think it got way too much of each ingredient in here, especially the lion's mane and the black seed oil and the MCT oil and the cannabinoids. This had me up all night and I was just knocking out everything. Got to the point I ain't even got nothing to do tomorrow. If you want to spread out your week in a week, don't take this. If you want to knock out a week in a day, this right here will have you going. This is like Viagra for the brain. You ever wake up and you got limp brain, you feel mentally dry and you don't feel inspired and you ain't got what is required for you to go climb that tower of the day and knock everything down? Don't take this because this will have you pound for pound ready to go Mike Tyson rounds. You know what I'm talking about? This Supermind right here is the best thing that I've ever had in my life. But I think it may be too much for the average person. Or maybe we need to put a disclaimer that this is extreme because this right here, man, I feel like I can do anything. Literally anything. Yeah, this too much. This too much. Come on. What else we got to get done, man? Send me the whole agenda. Let's do everything today. We shooting for 24 hours today. I ain't stopping. And y'all think I'm playing. Y'all better take some as well. Matter of fact, here you go. Yeah, you take some because I'm working. Non-stop. Ain't no cut. Let's go.
Right.
So I don't never had that conversation.
So there's no such thing as a successful person in America who isn't educated.
That's
so everybody, 100%. Now, if you inherit it, then you whatever. But 100%.
Well, then you got it, because the biggest wealth transfer is through
inheritance.
So
right?
we definitely do have to add that in because that does speak to systematic things.
So right. So, but what I'm saying is, a person that's become successful, they are educated in something.
Yes.
When you guys say that these people out here, that the Kardashians, you say they don't have no talent. They might not have talent, but they certainly have a trade that they ply. I can tell you right now that those people know more about branding, marketing, analytics, all of those things, all of that stuff. They know what they're doing. When people say big, dumb athletes, you know what I loved about Kobe Bryant? And me and you actually took a walk, like back when Kobe passed. I'm walking down the street, I see you. We walked over to the thing when the old people were doing the whole thing. I was watching everybody mourn Kobe. I used to like to watch Detail, the Kobe Bryant show where he would break down basketball. Because when I was at TMZ, I would go back and forth with people. And the intelligence of the black athlete would always be marginalized. So I remember having a conversation with one guy, particularly at TMZ, that I was telling him what a genius Floyd Mayweather Jr. is. If you know the basics of boxing, you know that for all of Floyd's prodigious physical skills, the one thing that far outpaces him from everyone else is his knowledge and composure inside of the ring. Like, he's just the smartest tactician that's been in there in a long time. And so those guys are not just educated, they're highly educated. Yeah. When I would watch detail, you would watch Kobe set up a play 3 plays down, set up a move. They are geniuses at what they do, especially the best of them, right? So your education is going to come. The question is, how traditional does your education have to be? Does your traditional education benefit you in America the same way it did? And these are all questions you have to ask. Right. For all the reasons that you would, to me, the most important part of being educated on anything is the plan that you have for your education. What are you going to do with it? All right? Because you could tell me right now, hey, I'm gonna spend the next, my little nephew out there at my Uncle Pass. I go out there, he's telling me he wants to do something. I said, hey, just come to LA. Just come to LA. You're 18. Just come to LA. Come to LA. I'll forget about everything else. You don't need to do all of this. Right. Unc can help you skip steps. Come to LA. I'll put you on. I will put you on right now. I will put you at the Spotify building. You will work there. By the time you are the age that I was when I moved out here, you'll be up. Right. It's over. Right. Like, just go ahead and do it. So what I'm saying is, even the conversations about education, really what I feel like what we're having conversations about is another thing, is intentionality with black men. Going back to what you were saying and how black men are looked at in society. There's a thing there. And the thing there is the thing that they don't really want us to talk about. The thing is what power actually is. Power is the ability to impart consequences or pain on someone who crosses you. That's the way I look at it. If me and you playing basketball, you throw the ball in my face, right? It's time to go. If I stall you out, right? And I just give you a pass or whatever, not saying that would happen, but if I give you a pass, then I'm protecting you, right? That's protection, right? If you can hurt me and I know that you can hurt me, or if I can hurt you and I know that you can hurt me, now my power matters. It doesn't matter if you can kill me. I'm talking about anything. My dad would tell me, we get in a fight, just make him remember you. Put a bruise on his face, rip his shirt, just make sure he knows you're not the one to f with. That means that then makes you safe. Power makes you safe. The ability to impart your power, the ability to impart your voting block on somebody makes you safe. That makes them have to do something for you. The ability for you to tear shit up when it's time, that makes you safe. That might make them stop, right? All of that stuff, that makes you safe. They do not want safe black men in this country. They don't. Because in order for black men in this country to be safe, they would have to be powerful. They would have to be powerful. The only way to have them safe is to be powerful. And the only way to be safe is to have longevity, to mean these diseases cannot kill you. Is to have financial freedom, which means you don't have to borrow from people outside of your community that don't look like you. It's to have strong families, meaning those families can operate. And so for you to be safe, for them to do all of that, they're afraid, they don't want the power of black men to be accessed. And that's the thing. And we could spend 10 hours, 10 years, 15,000 years talking about why that is, but it's facts.
Yeah, and when the movement to me goes from black power to the biggest civil rights movement of our era was Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't speak to the consequence. Black power, as you just spoke about, speaks to the consequence. Because power comes with things. Mattering doesn't come with anything, right? Because that's a statement that's already true, right? It's already a reality. Whether the system acquiesces to that reality or not, or people realize it or want to go against that fact, that's different. But black power speaks to black family, prosperity, education, right? Growth. It speaks to an ability to control our own freedom, justice, equality. It speaks towards liberty. Kwame Ture,
yeah.
who said that we want liberty, not peace, right? And I found that to be very profound because he was like, you know, I don't need there to be peace in the sense that I want everybody to get along. I want the ability to be free.
I don't
And
care.
we can't have peace until we free.
Bruh, I honestly don't care if you hate me or not.
I don't either.
Like, you know what I mean?
Now, I don't want you to ever be in a power position against me to utilize your bias against me.
I know. I don't. At this point, what I want is.
But that's the distraction, though.
Right. What this point, this is very simple. I just want to not have to need you.
Yeah.
And that's and another thing is.
But that's what separation is.
Another thing is black men have been specifically valuable workhorses in the history of America.
Yeah.
Workhorses, not just from a standpoint of slavery, but scapegoats for violence, right? In terms of, hey, we got to firebomb this whole town. Why? Because a black man did something. So they've been particularly useful in the American narrative of power and control.
That's a fact.
And so you make up a lie or an idea about someone, and the most important thing to do is to maintain that idea so that the status quo is maintained, right? And even Dr. King and Brother Malcolm and Medgar and Fred and the rest of these guys that they killed them because of what they were getting done, but they more so killed them because of what they represented.
100%. And think about those black men. Not one time in history have you ever seen them lay a hand on another person. You know what I mean? The manhood and what they represented was intellectual, right? And their capability mentally, right? The Latin word for mind is mens, right? When you talk about a person being a man, right? Men, they mind, right? So it's a non-gendered thing when you talk about men, right? Or one man or man. It's about your mind. And I believe that because we have attributed masculinity with all of these exterior things, right? People have gotten the focus of the intellectual one is the most powerful one. The man who has the stoicism, right? The man who is has that Messiah-minded, way about himself that is charismatic, that can deliver the message, that can lead them. That's the powerful one, right? And there were times in history where we did exalt that. And we have lost that throughout time because, and when we talk about culture, when we look at hip hop is getting to a place, I feel like, where it had went devoid a lot of intellect at all. But now you see the rappers having conversations. Now they talk about the money they making. Now they talk about the moves they making. Now they want to be seen as intelligent, right, in some of their conversations, right? But that wasn't always the case. Being ignorant, right, and being a nigga and, not saying anything of any true value was like, oh, I'm a street. You feel me? That's part of your reputation, but you was never the gangster. The gangster was always smart. There's no cases where the gangster wasn't smart. That's the crony. That's the goon that you send out to go crash out.
Dummy, yeah.
Yeah, but the gangster was always intelligent that took care of his surroundings and his situation.
Right.
Even when you go look at Rick Ross, and when he was, working with the CIA, unknowingly, he was intelligent. His character in Snowfall, right, even though it's a loose portrayal of actual events, was still intelligent, right? And if we get back to that thing today where masculinity is directly in connection with intellectualism and our ability to use our mind, I think we'll be all right because we'll get to that point where, oh, wait a minute. Their whole thing is to try to keep me away from my confidence and my power, which is not some external power, not a car I got, not a house I got. None of that shit matters. It's all about whether I can use my mind and I can figure out these problems that's in front of me, right? And they distract you with all of this. Hey, all of this is your problem. Systematic focus on the past. Like, no, wait a minute. I'm here in the present. How about develop one of these skills, right? All I got to do is keep my mind in control, which mental health is the biggest issue for black men today.
Yeah.
Which means that we don't have control of our mind, which you see a decline, right, in black America. That's the issue. If we can get to a mindfulness, if we can get to that place where we have that ability to think and focus, then we have all the progress we ever need.
Right.
all the women around the world know that black men are the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a well-known fact. I think it's documented in every historical category. They might have tried to erase it, but everybody knows, whether you with one or not.
Right.
We know it's a fact.
Right.
I don't care where you settle, where you've went.
Mm-hmm.
It's us, right? And that's no disrespect to second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place. That's what those places are for.
People get a medal.
Yeah, you know, but you know, they created the Olympics for a reason to show you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Do you know
the Olympics was literally created to show you, like,
there's levels to this. Do you know what the biggest problem with masculinity is? To me, is men. And let me tell you why.
Oh,
Let me tell you why.
You sounded like one of the. You sounded like Margaret Safford.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why the biggest problem with masculinity is men. Tell you why. People think that anything that a man does is masculine. So I talk a lot about my father, and the reason why I talk a lot about my father is because the older I get, the more I understand how by osmosis I gain something. So I'm back there hunting, same deer stand I was telling you about. I'll go back there and hunt. I'm back there hunting. And when I'm back in my deer stand hunting, I get down and I see some people having sex in the woods. And I see them having sex in the wood and they're skinheads. Because we had a bunch of land, but there was one access road, and in the back of the road, some skinheads had bought a house and they had a little skinhead house, and it was like 14, 15 of them, whatever. And so when I'm getting off my deer stand and I see these people, I'm 14, 15 years old. So I'm just like, oh, they having sex. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even tripping. But the dude kind of bows up on me a little bit. Now I have a gun, right? And my 3-wheeler is right there. This is a dicey situation. So he kind of bows up a little. He's embarrassed is really the only thing. Like, he's embarrassed that he got caught. He said some stuff to me.
When you say skinhead,
these are skinhead.
Two male skinheads or male and female?
A skinhead and another skinhead girl.
Okay. I don't
even know if she was a skinhead girl because she didn't have her head skin.
Okay.
But she was with them.
Right.
So I assumed that she was down with the Reich or whatever. And so I'm like, I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting there. I'm like, grown man. He's coming at me. I see him. He's pulling his pants. The whole thing is like a deal, right? He's pulling his pants up. I got my gun. I'm like this. My three littles right there, and there's a moment. There's a thing. So I'm getting off my deer stand anyway. I get back on my 3-wheeler and I ride back to the crib. I ride back to the house. Ride through the woods. I got a little path to go back there. And I'm in there chilling, and my dad gets home a little while later. I tell him what happened. He's like, "You see anything out there?" I was like, "Yeah, I saw something." You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? He asked you, "Did you see anything?" Like, I didn't see no deer. I saw something. And he was like, "Huh, come with me." So, he wasn't, he kept it on him, whole deal, but he was like a man. So he just drives back to the back. Never, ain't no freaking out. Ain't no, oh man, just drives back to the back. Stops. They're all sitting outside. Like, not all of them, but there's some of them sitting outside. Like, gets out of the truck. He's like, "Boy, get out of the truck." Come around to the front of the truck. He's like, "This is my son." To all y'all, this is my son. Okay, all of that's ours. So he gonna go back there and he gonna hunt. And he's going to hunt back here. He love to hunt. He gonna ride his 3-wheeler, and not just him, but all of his friends gonna be back here. He was like, all his friends. And he's like, he's gonna be safe. And if I feel like anybody is making my son unsafe, I'm gonna come back here. And the next time I come back here, it's not gonna be good for nobody. Are we in agreement? Literally. And even during this, I'm still scared. Cause I'm like, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm literally like, it's 9 or 10 of them. Like, it's whoever's sitting out there. I'm like, what's about to happen? He's like, are we cool? And you know what? They like, we're cool. Sir, I'm sir.
Yeah.
From a racist skinhead, sir. Like, "Sir, I'm sorry about what happened before." He's like, I'm not even worried about the trespassing. I'm not trespassing. I was young once too. Y'all want to go back there? I don't even care what y'all got going on. I don't care about none of that. But we neighbors. We gonna live up here. Y'all gonna live back here. If it goes bad, I'm telling you, it's going bad for everybody. To me, the way I looked at that, at that moment was like, I'm okay. That's what that made me feel. Like, as a even though we had lived in Baton Rouge and we had just got out to Zachary, we had moved out of that, and I had known everything that was happening to people, that made me feel like I'm okay. I see somebody that cares about my safety, didn't get crazy about it, didn't get mad, just went back there and asserted himself and said, this is how it's going to be. And the reason why I say that the biggest problem with masculinity is men is because if masculinity is not defined, it'll be redefined. And sometimes the people that are defining it haven't found it yet. It's not that they're not men. They haven't found it yet, right? It's not a birthright. Being a man is a birthright. Being masculine, being a father, being a community leader, that's not a birthright. You got to search for that. Somebody has to initiate you into that. That's taught. Like, that has to be taught, right? If you give somebody $100 million at 21, they're going to do what they 21-year-old body tell them to do. They're going to rap the way their 21-year-old body tell them to rap. They're going to have sex the way their 21-year-old body tell them to have sex. And then over the next 15 years, they're going to pop out a couple of kids, marry a woman, and then they're going to start thinking about the community. So the reality is that and that's not a diss to any of my brothers, because I'm not coming off holding it out. I worked at TMZ for 9 years. So it's no way to diss them. So what I'm saying is there has to be just like we have a conversation about everything else, we have to have a conversation, because not everybody has a dad, right? Yeah. So they got to be able to touch us. We got to be there for kids and show them that responsibility, safety, intentionality, not perfection. Because like I said, I was at TMZ 9 years, not perfection. Those are the things that make a man.
Yeah, I think the statement on his face, I would disagree with.
I feel you.
I understand the explanation, but the explanation doesn't sound like the statement on his face.
Well, allow me a little bit more latitude. The reason why I say that is because when I'm trying to say, you should have my brother Jason Wilson on here from the Cave of Adullam up in Detroit. Talks about being a comprehensive man and what that means. He teaches the young man.
The brother with the beard.
The brother with the beard.
Yeah. I like that brother.
Yeah, like talk about being a comprehensive man. What I'm saying is that because we have some men that are misplacing their manhood in other places, but yet asserting it, it's sometimes like muddles the definition.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying, as you explained it. I think the way I would have worded that, I think the representation of masculinity is the biggest issue with it.
Okay.
Because masculinity is a thing. Now, people in today's age, we want to codify it as however you feel at the moment, right? And I've seen people with large platforms do this, especially when you get into Hollywood, you get into media, and you want to be more comfortable in these spaces that accept a certain type of masculinity as this progressive masculinity, right? And so therefore you start redefining it so that it fits and make you comfortable in what is now what you decide masculinity is, which as a man, you can decide that is for what it is. But what I mean to say is that, if a woman is feminine, right? She's soft-spoken, right? She's highly intuitive. She's a nurturer. She's a carer. She's in her energy. Feminine can never be misrepresented by women who aren't feminine, right? It doesn't become redefined as the new feminine, right? But masculinity becomes redefined as this new masculine depending on whatever man is representing himself, right? And people act like masculinity just has to keep rechanging. No, it's a thing already, right? Number one, at first it was just the typical traits of a man, right? But when we go about it now, universally, if I say this is a feminine woman, you're going to get an idea. If you meet a woman who wasn't feminine, that's not a feminine woman, right? You're not going to ever blame femininity, right? You're not going to blame being feminine on anything. It's just, that wasn't a feminine woman. That wasn't a masculine man. He wasn't very masculine. He didn't assert much masculinity in the way that he spoke, in the way that he thought, in the way that he moved. And it's probably because in his upbringing, he didn't have a masculine example to elevate him into the idea of what masculine is. If a woman grows up with a lot of brothers, she may not end up becoming very feminine, right? Sometimes.
The word for it, tomboy.
Yeah, tomboy.
Yeah.
And then maybe later on she grows into going to her feminine era, right? We've seen this happen. That happens with men as well. You may grow up with a lot of sisters. Later on, you see examples. Oh, for a lot of men in the 60s, 70s, they seen Malcolm X. They seen the Fruit of Islam, right? They seen Black Panthers. Then they seen hip hop. So what happened is that we start following men in their examples of the way that they represent themselves, and somehow masculinity gets put in the middle of it when it really has nothing to do with it. The world is missing father, is missing masculinity the most. And instead of saying that, we talk about everything else around it. We say that fathers are missing. That means you're saying that the issue is not enough fathers. The issue is not enough masculine representatives, right? To elevate these young males into a position with these values and these characteristics that you believe makes a good man, right? Which, when you say a good man, that's someone is in representation of being masculine, right? So I think that masculinity shouldn't even be in the conversation when you're talking about the other toxic traits that a person exude, right? It has nothing to do with masculinity itself. It can be the lack of. So I think that that's where the issue lies, in the representation and the defining of it in the first place.
Right. I think I understand what you're saying. And what I would say is that the redefinition was intentional. Like, if you're a man because of how many people you've killed, if you're a man because of how many women you've slept with, if you're a man because, so the redefinition of it wasn't on accident, right?
By media, though.
I get it. But what I'm saying is that is the conversation. The conversation to me isn't even about somebody's personal traits that would make them masculine or feminine. The conversation is about specifically what the man's role in society is. And particularly when you're talking about in the Black community, when Black women are even I know some of the most brilliant and progressive Black women in the world. Yeah, you would hate them. Just joking.
Well, I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't hate any.
I get it. I'm just saying, but
y'all can come on my show.
Yeah, but I think they actually should. I think
this is high level conversation, not uncomfortable conversation.
Right, brilliant. Oh yeah, that's very important. Brilliant conversation. Brilliant. And you know what? You know what they have in common? They want a Black man. And I'm sorry for the ones for the ones that are playing for that team. They want a Black man. And I talk to these women. I know these women. They want a Black man, and the things that they want in a Black man are almost inherently masculine. They
100%.
want protection. They want to be seen. Well, yeah. They want to be made to feel a certain way. And so what I'm saying is this: I take my position as an OG very seriously. These young boys, these young men, if it's not defined for them, if it's not shown to them, they're gonna go off what they see and what
they're gonna take the best they can get.
So I'll give you an example of something.
But before you even go there, and I want you to hold that thought. We have to always get to who is the one that funds and defines the masculine representation, right?
Media writ large, yeah.
Media, like we don't go to the financiers or the writers of these scripts that we learn from.
Right.
We don't go to, hey, this is a rapper, but who decided that I'm going to fund this rapper because I think that this would be something we can make money off of? You got to follow, they always say follow the money.
Right.
Right? Then you see the people that define masculinity and define femininity and define the world. It's not the actor or the person that's in front. It's the people behind the scenes, because they could have decided, actually, we want this representation in the world, right? So we're going to put money behind this.
Let me push back a little bit. The only thing I would say to that is this. They're not going to fund nothing that doesn't make money for them.
Oh, that's a fact. But they still won't fund it even if it makes money.
So this is what I'm saying.
Because they won't fund it if it gives a fearless Black man power.
I agree with that. But that would never make money, right? So
yeah, it could.
It would make money. So what I'm saying is, overall, there's going to be too many people
in today's era, it can for sure.
Okay, I agree.
I mean, I think I'm a walking example that it works. It's just they don't want it to work.
But you're existing outside the matrix, though.
in and
but
out. Neo was always in and out.
I know,
it was
but
never
you
an out or in.
But you don't.
He looked bummy outside the Matrix.
Inside
he was.
I was like, he had no head. There's holes in his body. But what I'm saying is that you don't need anybody to co-sign you for you to do what you do.
Because
you are direct to consumer almost with anything.
But everybody can do that. But listen, so we got 30 million watch hours. We got almost 1 billion impressions, 51 million views. We was able to do like a 15 city tour, travel all around the world. This is an economy. Why wouldn't somebody outside look at that and be like, oh, if you can do it organically, we can 10x that with the right funding. They know that that's possible.
Right.
But they think about, all right, but does this coincide with?
They think about who it's going to offend, right? And like, does this is and so
but not when it's white boys. White boys get to have a whole white supremacist show and offend the entire world and get sponsored.
And I'll tell you why though, because it's more. The reason why that is because it's more racist than we think that there are. It's because you can actually. So this is my thing, and I don't want to get this into what I'm actually trying to say here. I'm not disagreeing with you.
And they don't really care about being offensive. They care about us being empowered. Because hip hop is the most offensive. You can.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
they will give you the worst representation on the planet and offend every church folk that ever existed
but 19,
and not care.
What I'm talking about is that actually doesn't offend them. What offends them is a powerful black man that's righteous. That's offensive. The other stuff that we're talking about, that's not offensive. That's not offensive. I'll tell you how we know what was offensive.
I'm going to categorize it as a lack of diversity because that's what they understand.
Right. So some of the other stuff, the vile stuff, they can sell that, right?
Yeah. But I want people to understand that it's oppressive too. You know what I mean? That especially if you're in position of power and you watch things that you don't want to empower specifically because you feel like it offends you, that's you utilizing your power to oppress certain margins in the black community.
Sure.
That's the way I look at it because you don't realize you're making the same decision as what you consider a white figurehead that doesn't want to promote you because you're a black woman or you gay or whatever it may be. When you make that same decision, oh, that's a black Muslim, I don't want to empower that voice, you're now the oppressor.
To be honest with you, one of the most debilitating things to white people.
I'm not even talking about white people. I'm talking about black people.
Oh, talk to me.
Black people make that same decision.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That they be offended that if there's somebody that they have to stand next to that's different, that represents another way, right? Because I believe a lot of times that they feel like it showcases their weaknesses. Well, hey, how were they able to do it organically? How are they able to still speak this way and garner success? And you have to change so many things about you, right? But for me, it's saying that why can't these things coexist?
I'll give an example. Okay.
I don't have any issue. In reality, I would rather somebody come to me with counseling and conversation versus write me off and be like, he don't know this, he don't know that.
So
if you ain't never talked to me, then you a sucker if that's how you write me off.
So let me tell you why that comes back to masculinity, right? Let me tell you why that comes back to being a compromise.
That was me expressing myself. That's my feminist side.
Okay, but let me tell you why. But let me tell you why that even comes back to masculinity, right? So, take Umar, right? I was talking to one of my friends, and he was talking to me about Umar. And he watched Umar on Joe's podcast. He was talking to me about Umar. And he was complaining. And I was like, you know what this is really about? I was like, he makes you uncomfortable. And I was like, the reason why he makes you uncomfortable is because people oftentimes get uncomfortable with what they feel like is an unreachable standard. And so Umar represents a purity, and I don't agree with everything that Dr. Umar says. I'm not saying that at all. But what I will say is this, is that he represents a purity of Black Pan-African thought, which means everything has to be 100% Black. Everything has to be Black. So everything has to be Black. Reminds me of some of my vegan friends. There are different standards of vegan.
Right.
There are some vegan people that eat vegan, but they'll wear leather shoes. They got leather in their car, whatever the whole nine. And then there are other people that they are vegan. They will make their clothes before it comes from an animal. They will do their whole thing. They represent, they're standard setters. In order for veganism to have any power, there has to be somebody that's uncompromising because there are levels of it. Not everybody can be that. Not everybody can do everything totally 100%. Not everybody would even want to, but that has to exist. And if you don't want to be like Dr. Umar, if you don't want to have everything black, have all black partners, do all black stuff like that, you have to at least appreciate and not feel intimidated by the existence of that person.
Well, yeah, I mean, Amish people get to do it.
Right. So when
Jewish people get to do it,
so
why not? I think that's what I want to get to.
And so, but let me finish real quick. And so that's what I'm saying about you. Anyone who would be intimidated with the way that you articulate yourself, what you stand, or what you represent, that is demonstrating something inside someone else. For me, or people that I know that are like me, that have similar situations, I look at that as inspiration. Because when I see somebody that's doing something that I go, should I be doing that way? Then I interrogate it. I look at it. I watch Malcolm 2 or 3 times a day, little short clips on YouTube, just because I don't understand how he would comport himself that way.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he would just lay back and just do that whole thing. Yeah. Like, I want that. It doesn't make me think, doesn't make me feel less than.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like, okay, what do I got to do to get that? Do I have to run more? Do I have to be more? Do I have to up my vocabulary? Do I have to do more mental health work? How can I stay within my body like that? What do I need to do? So the people that you're talking about, they would never be good partners anyway, because you cannot have a partner. You can't have a partner that's threatened by you. That's in a
I ain't talking about partners, but think about it like this. I think that we, and not to cut you with them.
No, go ahead.
But I just think that it's important for us to like bring this conversation to a level-headed reality.
Okay.
Right? Because we, and I say we, I'm talking about black people. We partner with people we don't agree with all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I see conversations with people who work with people in Fox and NBC and all these different places, and they talk about their horror stories. You didn't agree with them at all, right?
You know I got some.
Yeah. But what is the issue? Is there something specific, right? And we had this conversation about old gatekeepers of black men and things of that nature in position. There's something very specific about a young black man who knows himself, right? But here's the thing, and the reason I use these words like diversity, because you can understand that. And if you want somebody to be empathetic towards you, but you're acting the same way as that thing that you're going against to somebody else, you don't have a leg to stand on for me. And you don't deserve any empathy, right? There has to be a level of intentionality of empowering each other. Because there's nothing that I do or people that are like me that do that is not empowering to our community whatsoever. Not a single thing. Not one iota of our representation takes us backwards. It moves us forward. We want to be economically stimulated. We want to be educated. We want to step outside with a certain aesthetic and representation. We want you to have confidence, mental health exuding. Yeah, it's nothing but progress, right? So we have to, that's me challenging the status quo on how people think and how people feel like they're good people. But in reality, you are just another oppressor.
So, couple of things there. One is, we talk about the black diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about a diaspora of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn.
I like that.
A diaspora of thought, like a diaspora of thought coming from different places.
And I respect the diaspora of thought.
I respect the diaspora of thought. As long as I believe that you're coming from a place that's genuinely informed, if I think that you're performing for 1 second, I can't fuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
If I think for 1 second that you're just saying something either to get a rise out of me or to...
Yeah, that's performative.
Or to... I don't care... By the way, I don't care which crowd you're playing to. You could play to the crowd that I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like it's not coming from a good place, like if I have too many conversations with somebody and they're different in person than they are on Twitter, too different, it turns me off.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just, it's there's a glitch in it, right? So the diaspora of thought is very important, right? It's very important because what I always think and what I always say is that black people have to be more, the first group that black people have to be more accepting of is other black people.
100%.
The first group that black people have to be more accepting of is other black people.
100%.
Now, I'll tell you something else. There's another thing about that gets in the way of all of this. It's capitalism, right?
Yeah.
So
now, and on that point, I understand, and I thought I was going to say all that, I understand the business of it at the same time.
So capitalism says we can't, so what American capitalism has taught black people more than anything, what it's taught black people and it hasn't taught other people, it's taught us, the one lesson we've gotten from it is that we can't all be rich. So the question is, who's going to stop you from achieving, right? You hear this all the time. Hey man, there's just going to be certain people you're going to have to let go of, certain people you're going to have to get rid of, certain people you're not going to be able to stand by. I'm not saying that that's not true, but what I'm saying is, why do we look at things that way? Why is the thought about the people you're going to have to leave behind and not the people that you're going to have to add? Why is the thought about what you're not going to do instead of what you are going to do?
Or even reposition.
Or reposition, right? So what I look at is, I don't look at who from Baton Rouge or who from my past I'm not gonna have to be around. I'm thinking about, who do I need to know?
Right.
Who needs to make me better? Who can I fellowship and caucus with to get me to the next level? So the reality is, if when people get that, when people get to a point and they see somebody, they then think, well, what are these people gonna think about me when I bring him into the room with me? And then that, to me, tells me that they don't really have faith in Black people. I have enough faith in Black people to even tell some people, even to tell you, be like, hey, this is my man right here. I'm just telling you right now, in a joking way.
Right.
Y'all, like, this is my man right here. He gonna get at you on that shit. Let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, this is my homegirl right here. Like I just told you about some of the really progressive Black women, some of the greatest Black women in my life.
Yeah, some of the biggest viewers of the show.
Jamila Lemieux, Alicia Garza, all of these people, these are women that I really, really respect. Of course, Kalika Abrams, my girl. I don't want to, because this will get in the wrong way, and then she'll be like, oh my God, why is she talking about all these other ones? Nah, baby.
I'm gonna make sure we cut that explaining part out and just leave it.
But what I'm saying is, like, even in that sense, stop telling me about who you don't want to be around.
Man, I just listen, and to the business aspect, I understand the business. Me and my bro Keenan had these conversations about infrastructure all the time and looking at it from different perspectives and lens. Sometimes we complain about things from a point of ignorance.
Sure.
Right? We may want an award. We may want to be in a room, and we may want to look, and it's like, did you fill out this application? Did you hire a PR person? Did you do the booking thing? Or did you go to this networking situation? Did you meet this person? A lot of it is we not understanding the game.
Did you take care of what you had to take care of first?
Versus the game discriminating on us.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand that. It's what we feel, right? But then there's the reality, right? So, so when I'm having these conversations, it's more so about people who do understand it, right? Who have their infrastructure together. And we, like somebody like myself, and people who build like me, we have to go 10 times harder than the average person, maybe 100, right? And we have to be way more creative, way more intentional, and have to be brilliant in almost everything that we do.
And less margin for error.
Yeah, in order to get the level of success. There's zero marketing budget behind what I do, and there's people who have millions of dollars behind them that haven't reached nowhere near, right? And tried to duplicate this, but they can't because it's magic over here and it's science. But we don't often, like, and I don't exist in this bubble of thinking that this shit is going to happen. I just think about what should happen, right? When we get to that place, when we create that, and it's ideal, when we look at the successes, and I believe that it's the point of people that are empowering institutions to look for, right, those next ones coming up, to look for people who's pushing it forward. You should not be uninformed. You shouldn't be like, yo, I tell you about so-and-so. You know who that is? Like, I don't know. Isn't that your whole position, to seek out those voices, seek out those platforms, seek out what's next? We don't have that enough, that type of energy. It shouldn't be, I introduce myself, and I ain't speaking on me personally, but you don't know this person. That should be your job, to be informed on those things, right? I forgot who I was talking to, and we were talking about, and shout out to you and your NAACP.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
So we was talking about, I think I was talking to Wall Street Trapper maybe, and we was talking about institutions such as that and other institutions and their ability to seek out young talent, right? And young voices and leaders. And they should create those bridges. If there's any point of that existence of those type of institutions, for me, it should be that. To be like, all right, I see what you're doing. Can we offer guidance? Can we offer support? Can we offer platform funds? Whatever it may be. Otherwise, what is the point of our own institutions? And how can we go outside of that and complain about institutions that don't look like us if the ones who do aren't even doing that? So I believe that that's the point of change that we need to have, is where we intentionally looking for the change makers and supporting them.
See,
especially when they're different.
So here's my thing about that. I've had this conversation for a long time. Is that intentionality comes from solidarity, right? It comes from an understanding that what's good for you is what's good for me.
Having a common cause.
Right. And so, bro, I think that's less common than what you think it is. I mean, it's not less common. I'll put it to you like this. When I'm back in Baton Rouge, I see it all the time. Like, we just help each other. Like, people just help each other. People just help each other. Like, it's not even that big of a deal. Like, I'm at my mom and my grandmother's house. Dude come to the door. It was like, Miss Crystal, y'all got some fish? I was like, nigga, got some fish? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, who this? And he's like, y'all got some fish in there? Well, my mama and my grandmother go fishing, and they'll have some fish. And if you don't feel like going to the stove, it's a freezer full of fish. Yeah. People know they could come to the crib and get some fish. And give him the fish, he get the fish. I'm like, I'm like,
culture shock.
I'm like, yo, you coming? And by the way, it's not like I'm not from there. I know that it's like that, but I've been gone for a while. So it's like, I'm like, yeah, y'all got some fish in there? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, yeah. My mom was like, boy, you don't go in there and give him 5 pieces of fish. Give him 5 saccolets, give him the saccolets, so go and eat. What's wrong with you? Who are you? And I'm like, oh, cool, good.
Yeah.
Good to be home. So
that to me is culture.
Right. And so this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying with this is, like, what you're talking about is, even when I was at TMZ, there would be stories that would be on Black celebrities, and every time there was a Black celebrity story and it would come through, I would jump in the middle of it. Make sure that it was culturally sound or whatever. Mm-hmm. But what I would tell those same celebrities is, they need to be intentional about the relationships that they're fostering with Black media. Mm-hmm. And sometimes Black media isn't Black media outlets. It should be, but sometimes Black media is the Black person that works there. Mm-hmm. So if you want a star, if you want an ally, create one. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
If you want the next thing, create it.
Yeah, that's strategy.
And so for any of these organizations or any of these places, I think that there are a couple of things that are at play there. Number one, I think that sometimes there's a prestige disease, and that prestige disease is the same, because we don't talk about this, the same income inequality, the same inequality that exists in America that exists in Black people too, right? So people talk about different places where they will go. I mean, there's clubs that, like you said earlier, that certain Black people can get in and certain Black people can't get in. So sometimes when you have an award show, when you have something like that, you don't think about, or when you have an organization or whatever it is, it's not me coming directly at the NAACP Awards, I appreciate the nomination, but what I'm saying is, you don't think about who you can create, you think about who's coming, who has to be there. Who do you want there so everybody thinks that you're the coolest?
Yeah, I mean, we know it's
right.
The behind award show is funding.
Right. And so when I'm saying
advertisers specific.
So what I'm saying to that is, the way I look at that is, if we're gonna have a conversation about cultural intentionality, that starts with the most deserving and needy of us. Because those are the people that need the solidarity the most. Mm-hmm. Like, people walk up to me all the time, hey, Van, bruh, can I do this? Can I send you this? Can I do this? Like, the thing, if you send it to me, I'm gonna wear it.
Matter of fact, where's that cologne I put up here? He took the cologne off. Because I put that on purpose to advertise my breath. Come on, you see?
Let me see.
And it's a Black hand that did that. It's not
Let me see.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Let me see. But like what I'm saying is, it's like,
I told them every show I was just gonna start throwing free Black products up there.
Whose cologne is this?
My brother, Chris Classic.
Now here's the thing.
Yeah, out in Atlanta.
So this is my thing.
I'm gonna put his IG up there.
This actually smells amazing.
Yeah, packaging is immaculate. And it's probably even way better now. He sent me that a while ago.
This actually is amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's for me. I'm taking that.
Look over here.
Yeah.
I got an extra one.
But what I'm saying is that a lot of this stuff don't even take no effort.
Yeah.
It just takes intentionality.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is because I know a lot of people don't care. But I'll push out these narratives on purpose so we can dispel the fact of making you look like you do. When you can tell the person's not intentional because if the strategy is given and you decide to ignore it, now you're responsible for that because you have the awareness, right? So I don't want people to get to ability to act like they don't know. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's out there, right? And
Can I be honest with you about something?
yeah,
So I'll be honest
you
with
can
you.
always be honest about everything.
So I'll be honest with you about something. Let's say, and this is another thing, and this is why I'm gonna give you an example right now of why having conversations matters. Let's say somebody came to me right now,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm at Spotify, you know, doing my thing over there, I'm doing deals or whatever. Somebody came to me right now and they was like, we got $10 million and we need a podcast. We need a Black culture podcast, like with a Black voice. Do you know, I would not even think to come to you. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Wait.
But let me, but
All
let me,
this gatekeeper stuff.
but no. But let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I wouldn't have thought that you would have wanted to do that. Like talking to you, this is a very important conversation. I wouldn't have thought. I'd have been like, well, shit, I think I would say my man 19 Keys, but he probably not want to f with nothing corporate. Like I wouldn't have thought that you would have wanted to do that. And I think sometimes because even if your perception of somebody is a positive perception, that positive perception, it still has to be grounded in truth and knowledge. You have to get to know somebody and know what it is that they want and what it is they think and how it is that they look. It wouldn't have been on nothing that was like on no hating shit. Like we talked about, I think the world of you. I think your voice is incredibly important.
I get what you're saying 100%.
I would have been like, oh, well, if I come to him with that, is he gonna look at me as trying to get him to sell out to a corporation or something like that?
See, and that's the thing. It's like when certain groups of us get put in these like boxes.
Yeah.
Right? And the reality should be more so, I'm going to try to convince them that this is a good thing so the platform grows, you have more funding, and you can do more what you do because I know he won't sell out regardless of what deal is brought to.
I get
that should be the perspective, right? Like, I love what they're doing, and let me try to convince them how they can use this platform to grow even more while maintaining that essence of integrity, right? And there's, because a lot of these things is like, I ain't fearful of nobody. If there's some deal that I don't like, I just won't take it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's simple. Like, I don't believe in the boogeyman in that sense.
Right.
You feel me? I think about business, and there's some stuff I'm gonna tell you about that we're doing because our goal is to really, get deeper into media, right? I don't even want to always have to be the personality, but I know how to create shows. I know how to create scrolls from scratch. I know how to do the branding, the marketing. I know about the back end of how you make these things work. Everything we do is intentional. There's a science. And I think the most unappreciated So those are the people you really want to go to, because those are the people that probably will have a larger level of success if they were giving a platform.
Or because their ingenuity has been honed by the necessity.
They have never been able to depend on the machine. So it wasn't the dollars that got them the popularity or the growth. It was organic market viability, right? They had to test and experiment what the people really want, what was real to them, and then they figured out these methods to make this magic work. So I think about that, and I know when, like, I can tell what's going to be a hit show, and I see corporate spend so much money on things that don't ever work.
Right.
A lot of money, billboards, commercials, they had shows, they had all of this, and it flops and they don't do no numbers. Because you can't force people to change their taste. You can't force people to see something as real.
Cultural intelligence.
Yeah. So that's where I believe that, and that's what this conversation is about, intentionality. You feel me? It's about, like, how do we specifically look at places to where we want to change? Specifically, we want America to change. We have to empower different Americans because those Americans think different.
Right.
So when those Americans are empowered, now there's representation. Like, what could go wrong? Well, I ain't gonna ask that question.
No, answer.
No, it was more so, it's not a full thought, but in the idea sense of, like, what America do we want? Do we want the America where, and this is something I wholeheartedly believe, that if you empower Black men, you make America great. This is 100% my campaign. And I know this for a fact because historically,
America would die before they empower Black men.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. What about the Americans who are in position to empower Black men? Are you a part of that group? Why would you be in agreement with so-called racists or white supremacists or whoever you think? right? Why wouldn't you be on the side of empowering black men, especially if you're a black man or black woman or somebody that's supposed to be an ally in your position of corporate power to write the checks? Why aren't you intentional in that? Why are you in agreement with those people on that side, right? So I want people to really look at themselves in the mirror and be like, damn, maybe I am a part of, oppressing these brothers because I have no intentionality of helping them. Or if I do help them, it's only the ones that I feel like fit marginally in these safe boxes. But that's not where change happens. Change happens when you empower the ones that aren't safe.
The most frustrating thing about problems for me is that they have solutions.
It's usually the opposite of the problem.
The most frustrating thing about problems to me is that they have solutions. It's like, so everything what you're talking about right now, what America do we want? Really, bro, America's easy. Really, America's easy. There is a version of this country where the ingenuity never stops, where the innovation never stops, where the capitalization of the average American citizen never stops. Like, the need to have the carceral system and incarcerate black men at the rate that they're incarcerating them is overriding the need for those black men to become productive members of American society. The capitalization of those citizens, America's losing, right? They're losing. The country writ large. Now, the people who own private prisons and Armark and other companies like that, and the telecommunications companies and the bail bondsmen, all of those people are winning. But society writ large could use what those men can do.
100,000%.
And can use what those men are capable of, even after they've gone in for a little while and then came home, right? Because a lot of them come in hardened, but a lot of them learn lessons and they never want to go back. They could use them. They're making a choice. They're making a choice about how they see those men and what those men are capable of. America's easy. America is invest into something, get a return on that investment back. Bruh, there's not one place in the country that you can tell me that a legitimate investment into something has not returned something for you, particularly when that something is people. Particularly when that something is people. So the reality of the situation is either the country is about understanding how you're going to get the most out of every American citizen, which makes everything better, right? The more people that are thinking and the more people that are educated, the more crack we got at curing cancer, the more cracks we got at doing all this other stuff, the more cracks we got at figuring out a new economic system, a new social system. The more people that are free, full, and able to contribute, the better it is. But there's a conscious choice that is made about who can win and who won't win. And that choice isn't just being made in America writ large. We make it in our community as well. And I see all too often, like, people will tell me, people ask me to denounce Boosie. Boosie from Baton Rouge.
Denounce Boosie?
Give me an example of something.
Is Boosie the new litmus test?
So I give you an example of something, right?
Progressivism?
So I give you an example of something. So I don't want to bring him up in all the time, different interviews and stuff like that, but just to give you an example. I've been knowing him. Like, I've known him forever, right? Not best friends. I know his brother, but I've been knowing him, went to high school with him, right? He be wilding, saying stuff I totally disagree with, saying stuff I think is dangerous, right? Right? Talk about what was said. To me, for me personally, if I make it seem like I'm either better, different, more evolved, or disconnected from black men in a certain way, it fractures my relationship with them. It fractures our relationship. I gotta be viable at home. I gotta be viable in these different places. I gotta talk to them. They gotta talk to me.
You can't tell no more Louisiana stories if you denounce Boosie.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm just being for real. What I'm saying is, we gotta be in simpatico. I gotta be able to say, hey man, let me tell you why that was a little bit. And me and him don't talk like that, but I'm just saying to people like that, my homeboys, my actual friends. Yeah. Hey bro, let me tell you why I disagree with you about this. Let me tell you why I think you should say this a different way. And then at the same time, I also have to be able to have the relationship to where those brothers can actually tell me the same thing. So to me, a lot of this stuff isn't really about what's actually better, because what's actually better is always connection, it's always understanding,
100%.
and it's always being truthful. Some of it is about who can look the best in front of white people, who can look the purest in front of white people, who can look the most elevated and egalitarian in front of white people. Some of this don't got nothing to do with us. Some of this has to do with how we're viewed. I don't want to look like I'm the bad person because society writ large puts us in this box. Now, there's also a lot of bullshit we have to figure out within ourselves. But what I'm saying is, when you really care about somebody, the first thing you do is try to understand them.
Understanding breeds acceptance. You know what I mean? So I'm going to always vie for communication, because at the end of the day, I know who gonna be my best ally regardless. You feel me? And that's people who look like me, who understand me, who come from that same experience. So and here's the dangerous position that they end up putting a lot of people in, is that you want me to denounce somebody for this moment, right? But you gotta be a black man for the rest of your life. And you never know where your life takes you. But that moment is gonna follow you forever. You forever that person that did that. And they can't understand that context, right? So even trying to explain that experience to them, like, yo, you want me to denounce another black man, but I gotta be a black man forever. You know what I mean? And where I fellowship and where I get along and my quality of life is me being able to fellowship with other black men who respect me, right? So there's something beyond this moment that's gonna make you comfortable when it's gonna make me uncomfortable for the rest of my life. Why would I make a decision that decreases my own well-being, right? And we getting to these spaces where we can, and I believe that we are in an interesting space now where we can control more of our spaces. And we have to start being more, I think, brazen with our power. You know, they just put out the report. Black people got stock accounts. Put out the report. Black people wealth is growing, right? But we don't even report the good news. We only report the bad. So it feels like we've frozen in time and nothing is getting better. When in reality, I know if you go back 10 years, right, to where we are now, you know a lot more successful black people. A lot more, right? Like, it's not even close. So we should focus on the people who have created success, who have power, who are in position, and there should be a intention amongst those people to change the narrative. Like, no, I'm not gonna have Van say that. You know what I mean? Why I won't have to say that? Because the story around everything matters. You can take somebody who got out of jail. Let's take somebody like Wallow. Wallow gets out of jail. He did his years. He comes back. He gets to speak the way he wants to because the context of understanding his character is there. So when he curses or he says something, that's 100% okay because the story and the context is understood. But we leave black men misunderstood intentionally, so everything that they say is out of context. When it's like, understand them first, then everything is in context, right? And that's why I tell my story, right? And I speak about this because I think any and everybody can be understood when you understand them. You can go sit across from a white supremacist and he tell you his story, how he was raised by his father that raised him in these ways. Then you can get how he got that perspective, especially if he never had any connection with black people and he was only raised in that culture. I understand that context. Now I'm talking to you based on understanding your context. I don't have no hate or issue with you. Right. Because I understand the way you were made. Right. And anybody who understands that context is not going to walk around hating him. They be like, oh, I get it. That's why that person came that way. Right. But when you don't understand it, you're like, wait a minute, you just showed up at my door, stop racist. What's wrong with you? Now we got a problem. So I think that America has a context issue, especially when they're dealing with black men. And when we talk about diversity, when that diaspora thought is not given context, now everything you say is out of context again. There's a problem with what you said. It's like, no, everybody has this responsibility, especially because social media is at this place where everybody is a journalist. Right. But everybody does different type of journalists. Some people do tabloids, some people do hit pieces. Shock jocks. We're not educated about journalism. And so you don't even know what category you fall in. Right. Right. And then the way you intake information and the way you intake people's perspective has now also be on you. If you ever get mad at a 1 minute clip, that's your fault. Especially if it's a 2 hour interview or 1 hour interview, you're not even gonna do research to understand the context around it. So it's almost 100% always out of context if you don't even know what the context of the conversation was. So you're deciding to be triggered by something because you don't feel like doing the research. That's your own laziness.
Right.
So
I got 3 rules.
yeah.
Less ego, call your mama,
Mm.
and read the article. Like, move with less ego. I got to move with less ego. I got to
You
move with
think
less
so?
ego.
I think you need more ego.
Nah, I don't.
I think you need more.
I got to move with less ego. Call my mama, that keeps you grounded, and read the article. Read it. Watch it. Before you go, I've been caught up. Before you do it, go get some supplementary information on it. Don't fake expert. Don't fake expert. Don't fake rage. Don't fake rage, man.
I've been caught up there a couple times.
It
I
happens.
read something and then I'm tripping like, wait a minute. Then it'd be a comment right under there to be like, yo, this was for 5 years
Hey, man,
ago.
this happened. Hey, just
And I'll
let
be
you know.
mad at myself for
Yeah,
getting mad.
bro, hey,
Damn,
man,
they got me.
Hey, man, I don't know if you know, but this was a parody.
But it's a lesson to myself. Don't get angry at this stuff not real. First of all, we are living in the era of post-truth. You can't tell what's true and what's not.
It's impossible, right?
Right?
With AI, it's going to be even more impossible.
You can't believe your eyes or your ears.
Right.
Nothing is like, the truth now is going to be experience. What is truly experienced in real life that you can actually account for. You don't know a person in real life, you can't take none of what you see on social media as real. A person can create an AI avatar, go get them a voice clone real quick, and then have it read scripts, right? And they may have their team do that, and they may not even know what the goddamn avatar is saying, right? And you may be goddamn responding to their avatar and mad at them for something they know completely nothing about. And that's the reality we live in. That's not the future, that's the now.
Right.
Right? I don't know if I seen something that was AI and it was false. And it was somebody's team trying to create something so they can get views, run ads on it, and get paid. How do I know? Yeah, I have an opinion about this person, right? No, I'm mad at an AI avatar. I'm mad at their strategy as a team and their business model. I'm not really mad at them. So now I'm at this place where I don't take nothing on social media serious.
Right.
At all. So I believe that what we need to be in matter of fact, I want to pivot into this conversation just a little bit more about media. And I want to ask you this question. Who controls media?
Money.
Who controls the money?
Whoever has it.
Who has the money?
The people that do.
Who are those people that do? Hey, say if you get to 5, if you ask 5 questions in the same trajectory, you get to the truth.
So what I'm saying is, it's different people. It's power. Power has the money. Like, the establishment of American media goes way back. It goes back to guys like William Randolph Hearst. It goes back to, like, those are legacy brands like that have trickled down, right? And then you have the globalization of the media. You have different entities, but power is the most sort of comprehensive way to answer that question to me. Like, I worked in media at TMZ. I still work in media, but I worked in media at TMZ. TMZ was a celebrity news vehicle that was owned by Telepictures, and then Telepictures was owned by Warner Brothers, right? So when you think about the ecosystem there, right? So you have stars that are doing movies for Warner Brothers, right? And then they're walking outside and TMZ is getting them. They're getting DUIs that's coming back. So what the clicks and the hits are all going back to the same group of people. Like all the, whatever different groups of media companies, conglomerates that run this, they're finding different ways to diversify what is really people's attention, their rage, and their emotion. I was learning how to write headlines at TMZ. The first headline I ever wrote at TMZ was like a funny one, right? So what I would do I didn't break very many stories there. Like, I wasn't like the guy that broke a lot of stories. I broke some. But early on, it was problematic for me to break too many stories because, like, I was on TV a lot. So being on TV a lot, and also just wasn't as good at it as other people because, like, there are other people that were just better news gatherers than me. But I did write a lot of stories. I remember I wrote a headline and the note that I got was there's not enough conflict in it. There's not enough conflict in the headline. Because I talked about this a little bit on Bootleg Kev podcast, because there has to be, because that's really a game of capitalism. There has to be something in the headline to make somebody click it. So the truth is very rarely that. The truth is nuanced, it's layered, it's complicated. a lot of times. Sometimes it's very direct, but a lot of times when you're talking about a situation, there are levels to it. But in terms of a headline, has to have conflict because that headline is part of a capitalistic endeavor to get you to click on that. The more people click on that, you sell ads, you sell buyouts on the site, you sell all of this stuff. There's stories at TMZ, single stories, that were worth millions and millions of dollars. Millions and millions of ad dollars in terms of how the stuff went around to different places. Millions and millions of dollars in terms of ad buys that people would make. And just the cachet for what it is that you're doing. You could make a movie right now that costs $3 million, that costs $10 million to make. The movie might make $3 million back, right? It lost money. But if the film wins 3 Academy Awards, you made money. You made money back in prestige, in attention, in perception, right? And the media, what it really is an equation to take all of those different things, to take all of those different human emotions, fear, like lust, anger, all of those things, and turn them into dollars. And the best way to do that is the way that it will be done. And there's no soul to it. There's no right to it. Now, somebody that cares about, there are plenty of journalists out there that care about exposing things and people knowing the truth. Plenty of them. They're oftentimes not very rich. They're oftentimes working at places that are very small.
Right.
They're oftentimes working at outlets that don't have big corporate backing, because with all of that comes deals and powers and stuff like that. So when I say power, when I say money controls media and power controls money, to me, that's an incestuous relationship that exists now because it must. The only reason why, because it exists now because it must. So the best thing you can do for yourself is just to wake up and just be like, whatever I read today, I'm not gonna get mad. My anger is not worth what my action will be worth. You see something and you don't like it, well, if you can't spend 5 minutes figuring out what you're gonna do about it, don't spend 5 minutes being mad. The anger don't go nowhere. It's empty calories. If you want to do something, then do something. If you want to forget about it, then go forget about it. But I'm telling you, if you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes being mad, and I fall short of this all the time, if you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes getting mad, you are endeavoring into the digital control that is intended. And look, I'm not acting like it's a big boogeyman. What I'm saying is, this is the way it works.
Well, it's the reality.
Yeah, like,
I mean, this is a well-documented system.
Right.
Where media is a capitalist, endeavor now. It's not about truth, right? That's just not a hidden fact. But most people are not that well informed because media doesn't keep you well informed anymore. So most people don't have that much information about economics or real political realities of what's going on. It's just a bread and circus show for the world. And because Americans are not that informed, right, America continues to decline. But this is something that's happening all around the world. There was a documentary on a woman who worked for some news organization. I forget what it was, but she was doing a story on Nike. And she was explaining how, I think they was going over the Nike camps in China, I think. Not camps, but factories.
Factories, yeah.
But she said when she got over there that Nike had become like a slang for like mistreatment of workers, right? And there was all of these stories that was surrounding, right, the mistreatment of workers and how they was getting beat and how they had to keep working. And so like there's this complete disconnect of like how Nike represents itself and how it was seen over there for the people who actually had to work in those factories. And she wanted to put this story out there. And she said, of course, it was killed by, her boss. And what ended up happening, she said that all the reporters ended up having to wear jackets that had Nike on them, right? And she didn't want this to, she had wrote a memo and saying that basically like this goes against journalistic integrity for us to be wearing, logos while trying to do honest reporting and things of that nature. And they wrote her a letter back like, you fired basically.
Right.
And she was gone. And she was like, that's when she had seen the change in media, that media changed from like this machine of reporting accurate news to give information and keep the people well informed about stories that need to be heard or truths that need to be told, to just became this money machine where corporations, right, create advertisement dollars for these media companies, and it's just the cycle of what happens. And I think what happens is anytime there's a shift, when the people are not informed that the business model shifts, they think that that same thing is still it, right? Like, oh, media started off like this, that's what it is. Media has transformed so many times over the years, but who's going to inform you about that? Media?
Right.
No. So that's where independent research and social media, but social media, you have an ocean of...
It's a big game of telephone.
Yeah. So you have to be super intentional about researching these things. Like, if I didn't watch that documentary, nobody in my life ever told me that piece of information, and no newspaper ever told me. So I wouldn't know. So if you want to be well informed today, you have to do independent research. That's the bottom line. There's no other way to get it. Or you have to find a trusted news network that's independent, that you respect, that isn't bought out, that you believe still stands on journalistic integrity to give you the truth. And that just doesn't really exist.
Or the person at one of those places that you believe can happen. So
I think, what's the brother at Griot?
Mark Lamont Hill.
Mark Lamont. I think he's been doing a good job at reporting.
Fantastic.
The Palestinian and Israel issue.
But also, but here's with Mark. Me and him talk very regularly, particularly on that issue. You know what the deal is? He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He is studied, goated in Middle East studies. Speaks Arabic. He's got years in the game. He's not somebody, you know who I am? I'm somebody that's read 6 books on it.
Yeah.
That's who I am. So if you ask me something, I'll tell you something, and I get the information from him. I'm somebody who's read 6 books on it. Like that's when you
which is better than you got people who read 6 articles, then you got people who read 6 headlines.
6 headlines, right?
Or 6 minutes on
But the only reason why I knew which 6 books to read was because of him. So the reality is, like, I get that from him. He's great. He's qualified to talk about that, and also he's also invested into the actual reporting on what's going on, the reality of it, with very little slant. Like, obviously he's a staunch pro-Palestinian voice, but that does not ever skew the facts that he gives. You know what I mean? And so to me, there are people that exist, but you gotta sometimes do a little work.
They're usually bald-headed black men.
This guy.
Charlemagne, Van Jones, Mark Lamont. How come it's always bald-headed black men?
Because we stressed out. We're losing our hair, man. We stressed out. We losing our hair.
I started picturing, I'm like, they all got bald head.
There's some bad bald head ones too.
If you want to make it, you got to cut your hair.
You got to cut your hair off.
To fit in the profile. Cause they must have like they must have
hey, but I'm telling you straight,
acceptable avatar.
Bro, you can get your jokes off. Now I'm going to Turkey, baby. I'm coming back. End of this year, I'm going to do high-level conversations too.
Transplant?
I'm coming back, bro. It's over.
Listen, man, I'm not one to judge, but I'm going to judge you.
Bruh, I expect your support.
No, I'm just playing.
I
don't care, man.
When I come back,
get your hair, man.
Bruh, she gonna be, I'm taking her all the way back. I might get braids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shit, I'm gonna have that big.
You're doing too much. You can't do all that.
I can't get the braids.
If you do that, you gotta it be a small little acceptable front. You can't stun on people who got hair. You know what I'm saying? For real.
Y'all blessed.
You feel me? That's a scout BBL. You can't do that.
That's exactly what it is.
No, you can't do that.
If they doing the BBLs, why can't I do the BBL?
No, you can't do that.
Nah, it's happening, bro.
Yeah, clip that up. I put that on there. That's good. Hey, what's this boy talking about?
I'm telling you straight up. I'm bringing this hairline back. Why should I be the one to suffer, bro? Science is out there to help me.
But your hair don't look like it's too bad. Your lining a little.
Oh, bro.
But beyond that,
I keep it low, bro. If I catch me on Tuesday, dog, it's sad, man.
Yeah, it's all right, man. A lot of people go through alopecia. You know what I mean? And that's scientific, man?
I'm playing.
No,
19,
I'm trying to be in support.
19.
I'm trying to support the alopecia community.
Bro, a lot of people, I'll let you know, bro, a lot of people in your same boat, like, we'll start a telethon or something like that, man.
Bro, listen, what Jada Pickens said Pac had it, so the greats had it too.
What's too?
Yeah, so I think, my pop's got a bald head, but it's by choice. He can grow his full hair, so I'm not joining this guy. I'm just saying. it's people who make that choice and that decision, you know. And I think
I would
y'all
never.
just be proud of it, you know.
He playing me, bro. He get, you know, I could tell, bro. He get this is Oakland, 19 Keys. This is the culture. I understand. You getting off on me right now?
No, I'm not.
Like, bro, I just let you know, bro. You know,
Bro,
what I'm
I'm trying to support you in any way that I
never
can.
lose my hair because I only eat the finest juices.
No,
and
that's
dairy
not it.
and-
That's not it. I mean, partially because of the, you feel me? But
what is this? What's this?
oh, this one of our products. That's just the pure moss right there.
What I mean, what does this do?
Man, that's just gonna give you the vitamins and nutrients that you need.
Oh, this is sea moss.
Yeah. But we got probably about 5-6 different products. They nootropics.
Is this gonna grow my hair back?
I mean, it'll start the process of making you feel better. You know, I'm not false selling nothing.
I feel you.
But I will tell you that a lot of people, they do have a nutrient issue that's going on.
Right.
You know, and a lot of
Especially
things
with
are
mental health.
avoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to, number one, men are not supposed to stress, right? Decreases your testosterone, right? So it's not good for a man to stress. A man got to have peace. He got to have calmness in his life. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
But nah, you know, I think you fine, man. You good.
We gonna see. We gonna see what's gonna happen, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling.
I got a question to ask you. You ever been to the club before? You ever partied before? I'm sure, yeah. You been outside before, probably been a little Perry, right? You know what I'm saying? You might kick it, might even went to Ghana. You feel me? Had a little good time and everything, but have you ever been to a party in front of the Sphinx, a private party in front of the Sphinx? Tell me that. Anybody ever took you there? Invited you ever in your life? Yeah, got a little invitation, like we going to the Sphinx, you want to come? Well, listen, for the first time in your life and first time in mine, I'm inviting you to come with me and party at the Sphinx. When I say party, man, it's way more than that word can ever encompass. But this is what we know. We know we're going to have a good time. We know that it's going to be a surreal experience, and we know it's going to be one of those moments in time where we cherish that memory forever. So, for my born day, I want you to come with me to the Sphinx and let's have a good time. Oh, and you gotta wear all white, cause we're gonna be outside feeling godly. Plus, it's hot out there, so you don't wanna wear all black anyway. Make sure y'all come tap in. I'm 19 Keys. Go to 19keys.com/events and come party with me at the Sphinx. Yeah, we have a good time, I promise you. Earning your crown is just about showing up, believing that you deserve it every single day and striving. There's no such thing as perfection, but there is a process to perfecting. And when you're putting on that crown, it's a representation of your chieftain, representation that you are moving in that cosmic order and you believe in your own power and existence, that we're going for liberation, freedom, justice, equality, and we can't have no peace until we get that. So we step outside with the representation of the sun, moon, and stars, representing that we rule our universe. We're not ruled by the universe because we are in flow and in conjunction with the times, and we are in alignment with the signs of the divine, and we wear those every single day. Whether you got one of the Shea Era crowns, the top crowns, or whether you have the crowns that we tie in through the ritual as a representation of putting on the crown as you adoring yourself before you step outside. Make sure you got your crown so they know who you are. Royalty, inside and out. This is Crown Society. Become a part of it. So I got another question for you.
Go for it.
Do you think that Saudi Arabia will be like the real next go-to place? Because when we look at technology, you know, America is going to have a hard time building any infrastructure over here because it already has infrastructure. So it can't use the latest and greatest because they got to rip out what's already here. So when you look at Africa, Africa has prime position to use not only to build new cities of tomorrow, but to use the best technology. So it'd be futuristic cities. Saudi Arabia is built in Dubai and Qatar and all these places building in the desert. So they can build futuristic cities instantly. Where do you think the future, right, I guess, the future cities where everybody is going towards will be.
So, once again, if the world were really focused in on development and betterment, it would definitely be Africa, because the continent of our origin is obviously the most nutrient rich and biodiverse place on the planet, right? The fight over Africa and its resources is emblematic of global dysfunction, of the usury and the exploitation that has defined modern mankind. And the reason why I say that is because the condition, and by the way, this is not me saying that Africa is in bad condition. It's not. What I'm saying is that the true power of the continent has yet to be revealed. Because if you've ever visited Africa, you go to Africa, Africans over there have amazing, wonderful societies that they've built. And it's fine, it's thriving, it's getting better every single day. But what I'm talking about is the power.
He's so politically correct.
I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to be politically correct. What I'm saying is there's misconceptions that is motherfuckers running around there in grass skirts and huts. It's not.
Well, I think that perception is being corrected by all of the visits and the compiling of media that people show from their visits.
But what I am saying is the continent of Africa and how much it has to offer the world and what it has given to the world historically has the story's been undertold and has been marginalized.
100%.
Right? And so there's even more there to be had. So it should be, but it probably won't be. Okay? Not in the near future. Saudi Arabia is different. And different places in the Middle East are different in terms of like even places like Dubai. In a hyper-capitalistic world where anything can be bought, the person with the most money rules. The Saudis can buy whatever they want.
That's a fact.
Straight up. Like there's too much money they can buy the morality of individual people. They can buy they can buy whole entities that people that wouldn't say we wouldn't work with them because because Jamal Khashoggi got killed or because of how people's rights over there, women's rights, whatever. No, whatever. They paid Cristiano Ronaldo like $1 billion to play soccer. Like it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
they could buy the damn American League and take all the players.
They could buy whatever they want. And so the reality is, like, it's not about like it's about what the price is more than anything. Right? It's about what the price is. So to me, the entire future in a hyper-capitalistic world where only money matters, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what's best for people. It doesn't matter what's best for society. It doesn't matter. Then the places like that are nutrient rich, that are resource rich, and have autocratic governments you're going to probably see them rise in power. That's why China's such a problem. China's such a problem because the fact that there's an autocracy there in China means that they can get stuff done. Right?
It ain't bureaucracy and red tape.
Right. I'm not saying that like I want an autocracy. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that like the people there don't have very much power, but when they decide at the top that they want to compete in a specific way and they want to invest and have resources in a specific way, they just go do it.
That's what they did. You go back a few decades, China was not what it is today. Nowhere near. And people would have thought China would have stayed that way. But China had made a decision, I believe they said part of it was the game Go. When the AI had beat the best Go player in the world, that China had looked at that and it was a signal for them that the world had changed essentially. And they had decided from there on that they were going to be the leaders in AI, right? And they had made a statement to the world saying that in 20 years, probably or 30 years, that we're going to be ahead of America in AI and technology. Now, when you're dealing with AI, you're talking about who has the most data, right? So when you're talking about people that can, a government that's set up in a way where it can extract data completely legally right, in every aspect of surveillance and human reality, then they can automatically start building their society out much quicker. Where America has to go through red tape. America has to go through these laws. We have to go through lobbyism. And America, it does not represent where we could be, right? America represents corporate interests and where we're lobbied.
Sure.
Right? And this is why America is not able to move as fast as anybody else.
To keep pace.
Because if it's not within, like, even inventions in America, how come all of a sudden all these companies start releasing all this technology? That means that they've been holding on to it and they slow leaking it so that they can make money. But when one company does it, or maybe it's China that does it, and now they want to compete, all of a sudden you see innovation rise. But you've done it at a point where it's almost too late now because you can't compete with what's out there. So America is stifled by not capitalism, but by monopolies.
A couple of different things. About income inequality is
and
one.
monopolyism, if that's a word.
So the centralization of power and people's inability to, the moment, I keep coming back to this, the moment that the life of the average American is not prioritized, everybody suffers, because just in prioritizing the life of the average American, then that means inherently you have to do a couple of things. You have to create, we're not talking about people that want to go out and change the world. We talk about people that want to work from Monday to Friday and then go watch the Saints play on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, those people, in order for them to be viable, there have to be industries where they work, where they work, right? So right there, industries where they work. Then there have to be grocery stores and stuff to feed them. Then there have to be education for the generation after them to learn based upon the fruit of their stuff. Then you probably have to have a strong union at where they work to protect the workers. Just by prioritizing the average American right there, right? I'm talking about the C student, so that they can work, live, and have a good time. So much of stuff around grows. So many other businesses and things have to be healthy for that person to be healthy. The moment that middle class dissipates and you no longer care about them, then what has to be cared about is the top 0.1 of 1% that have all the centralized wealth in the country. And once that happens, well, you're not going to care about those people. So those jobs are going to move to other countries, right? It's going to be all about profit, shareholders, things like that, which, by the way, I personally believe, like, in the Keynesian method, meaning the power of the worker. And so the economics of the country would actually be better. Innovation would actually be better. There would be less even environmental waste if, in fact, the average life of the American was prioritized. There's no reason why that can't happen in the country as well. For a long time, the strength of America was seen in its diversity, right? What we're seeing now is places with relatively homogenous demographics start to catch up to America because some of the cultural issues and cultural fights that exist in those places that exist here don't exist over there. So if we talk about places like the Netherlands, right? Everybody talks about like how pristine their societies are. If you've ever been there, you go there, it's clean, everybody got free healthcare, it's cool, the whole thing. Those places are so homogenous that they don't mind paying a 60% tax rate. Do you know why? Because when they pay a 60% tax rate or sometimes a 65% tax rate, they know that money is going to them because it's going to somebody that looks just like them. The thing that we have, right, that goes on here is any initiative that would happen, there are people asking, well, I don't want niggas to benefit from that. Like, why would I want them to get something? Like, so we're going to invest in the schools. Okay, we're going to invest in the schools in South Baton Rouge, where I'm from. I sit down and tell you right now, if you invest into the schools in South Baton Rouge, let me tell you 3 things that are going to happen, right? Those kids are going to be better educated. They're going to go to better colleges. They're going to start better businesses. And I'm not just talking about the schools. I'm talking about the trade schools that could be around those places. You're going to get more barbers, more hairdressers, more mechanics, more people that can go out there and actually make a living. And you know what? That's going to keep some of those people out of your living room.
100%.
I don't care. I don't care that would happen. The reason why I don't care is because I don't want them to have anything. So those cultural, as well, capitalism, right, as well as some of these cultural situations that are going on, it's stunting the growth of the country. Not stunting the growth, it's grinding to a halt. And there's had to be somebody. And when I say someone, last thing I'll say, so I'm not filibustering, there's got to be somebody that talks to everybody. And I mean this. When I say somebody that talks to everybody, I mean a politician. I don't care if it's Larry Jenkins Jr. from South Chicago or if it's whomever from what, somebody that says, I care about y'all. And when I say y'all, I mean everyone. If I was running for president right now, I would campaign with my base, but I would also be heavy in the places that Trump runs. And I would say to them, you know what? When I get up here and when I win, like it or not, the country's going to be better for y'all too.
Yeah. I think that's because I think you said it a bunch of times in this, that they're the one of the prime motivators and drivers of the decision makers is that they really don't want Black people to have anything, right? And I have to think about how effectively true that is. Then I have to think about, I had a conversation with my brother Vince, and he's a brother that did like 20 years, got out, created a multi-million-dollar company, only hires felons. But he said something. He said that creativity with lack of opportunity equals criminality. And then I had a conversation with my brother Keenan, and we started talking about what is the middle class? Middle class is basically being able to afford a household of four, right? And he introduced me to this stat that since 1990, there hasn't been any new jobs for the middle class, right? I think that
they've lost jobs though.
Right. Yeah, no new job.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's a crab in a barrel mentality. So it's the infrastructure of America that has Americans fighting. I think it's less about the ideology of these particular groups and more about the strength of America and what they've given to the people. The America hasn't given more opportunities, hasn't created more jobs, right? It hasn't strengthened the mom and pop shops. It hasn't strengthened environments and neighborhoods where people get the money on business because they got it, right? When we look at those median averages, those are decreasing across the board, right? For Blacks and whites. And they always put us and say that these are our counterparts, whites and Blacks, the median household. But they never mention East Indian or Asian, and they're at the top. Yet we see this new range of East Indians or Indians, period. Kamala, Vivek, Nikki Haley. All of a sudden, these are the new candidates that's pushed as the new minority, right? And I think Black people are thrown into this distractive fight with poor white people, poor Black people, middle-class white people, middle-class Black people, while everybody else is running laps around us, building, right? And I do think that we have a culture problem in the fact that our culture does not incentivize progress or growth. So, which is an eternal thing. That's not nothing nobody else has to do to me, right? That's something that we have to fix ourselves, because if our culture is education, doesn't matter how much you hate it. There's nothing you can stop about my intelligence increasing, right? We see Robert Smith, I believe he gave like $100 million to HBCUs, right? Which is a great thing. But when we need more of those type of initiatives that's about those that come from our communities, that come from our collective, and empowering and educating us, right? And when I say educating, funding initiatives that educate, not going into research, just going into this nonprofit. I'm talking about people who's already doing it, and you're funding that so that it becomes bigger. We're not doing that. So we can't really look outside of what we're not doing to look at what somebody else don't want for us or trying to do against us. And I believe that that's the difference that we have that a lot of other communities don't have. They first look internally of what's all the problems, right? What can we fix? And what's the issue internally that we can fix? Then externally, what can we do about those people that's against us now that we strengthen? When you got a team, you're not focused on how good that other team is. You got to get your team together first. If we got bad defense, bad offense, and we don't have camaraderie against each other, it doesn't matter how good they are. It's really about how good we are, right? And My whole thing is we don't need everybody. We don't need 45 million black people to be on it. We need the leaders. We need 10,000 black families to be strong, educated, that can lead the rest of the nation, right? When we look at other people, we say it's a small percentage of them that's at the top. So, and they have the power that trickles down to the rest that creates the narrative that then represents reality. So why aren't we doing the same things? So for me, I think that we have to stop existing in these ideas that somebody else even has control over us. And it's not to say that they don't exist. It's just that we need to focus on the factors of things that we can control, and we ignore our greatest allies, the people who's working for our benefit, right? So we have to use our media, which I think is our wealth. That's our wealth transfer, is this technology age, to where we can do whatever we want with it.
What up?
Right? Nobody gets to control your media besides if you take advertisement down, you can't do certain things. But who's to say that we can't prop up certain voices so that we can control certain narratives? Why isn't, when I look at the NAACP, or I look at, I ain't named too many black organizations I can name anymore, right? But when you see that the financial literacy movement is pushing and black people are getting stocks and they're investing, why isn't that propped up more? Right? Why isn't that a political speaking point? Why isn't that something that we shining and magnifying the light on? And everybody who has a platform, every single body should be happy about this. Like, yo, they really showing up 20,000 people strong over here.
Right.
That's something amongst us that's an issue. That's not cause CNBC did it. Fox did it.
Right.
So that's us that not taking a movement that should be the biggest one, so that we can start to change the narrative. Cause they say, obviously, young black men like when they see black men that's educated and that's fly, and they see a new archetype in black women that's creating businesses. Why aren't we making that the narrative?
Right.
That's a collective issue internally on how we're not using our resources and power.
So let me tell you where we have synergy right now. I'm talking about the diagnosis, you're talking about the prescription. And that's why the conversation is important. Tell you what I mean. So post-World War II, the major manufacturing hubs are destroyed. Japan is destroyed. Germany is destroyed, right? Russia's in shambles, a lot of war-torn places, right? 3% of the world's population died in World War II. So when people talk about like how bad Hitler is or why you shouldn't play, like Hitler popped off a war that probably got somebody in your family killed. 3% of the world's population died in World War II. So what happens after World War II is, for a time there, the United States is unfettered and unchallenged in its ability to manufacture, right? For a little while there, it is not only do we come back with the economic boost that happened from the war, right? Because of the war effort, but for a little while after that, like we were the only place that was really popping and had the infrastructure to do stuff, right? So you get from about 45 to maybe actually 60, maybe not even that long, 10 or 15 years of stuff happening. Detroit booms. All of this stuff starts to happening. And because that stuff is happening, some of the other cultural issues in those cities don't really matter, right? So by the time you get to the 60s, that has really slowed and those places have come back. And as soon as those places come back and the United States has to compete globally with some of those places, the cultural issues in places like Detroit, in places like all throughout New Jersey, they bubble back up to the surface because now the money and the ability of people to provide for their family are gone. And what people start to see is, you know what? They really don't like each other. And if it's about somebody having less, we'll have less, right? And so then what happens is after that, you see the urban decay in the cities. You see all of that stuff. The Rust Belt develops. Now it starts to become about not who's going to be rich, but who's going to survive. Okay. And so after that, we get to like you have a situation like that, right? Then you get to a situation like with the HBCUs. What you just said about the HBCUs. He gave $100 million to the HBCUs. He shouldn't have had to do that. Most of those HBCUs are land grant universities. And being at their land grant universities, there is funding that is supposed to be historically earmarked for them. And they have been purposefully and intentionally underfunded and defrauded, but not on accident, on purpose. So what I'm saying is, anytime the money gets pulled away, be it because America's manufacturing kind of the competition gets ratcheted up, or because something's being defunded for Black people, the answer starts to become Black people have less. Black people have less. Whenever you get into a situation about how we're supposed to do, it's always give them a little bit less. And last thing I'll say about this, before I get to where I agree with you at, is that we earned this. Like this isn't, I'm not asking nobody for a handout. Like I'm not looking at America as having a moral duty, like to empower Black communities. It's a financial imperative. It's money that's been paid and not owed. It's stuff that's been pulled out of communities on purpose. It's intentional redlining, intentional poverty that's been given to these people, intentionally drugs that have been plowed, intentional over-policing. It's all very intentional. Now, and so I'll bring that up just to say that those things out there exist. Now to what you said. Your answer is the only way to beat it. Like we could talk about the first part of what I'm talking about. We have to talk about it in order to understand. Like, for example, if you went into the doctor and you were sick and you had cancer, nobody gonna be stricken with that. But if you went to the doctor and you were sick and you had cancer, the worst thing the doctor could do was tell you that you were okay. Because if the doctor, he or she tells you that you're okay, then you're gonna live life like there's nothing that you have to overcome. You're gonna go out and you're gonna say, now there are two different people. One people say, oh, wow, I got cancer, I'm gonna die now. Let me go do a bunch of coke, a bunch of and all of that. And then other people, like, they get after it. They go, okay, this is what I gotta do. This is how I gotta eat. This is the treatment I gotta do. I'm going to beat this. Now, I'm not saying being Black is a cancer. I'm not saying that at all. But I don't want people to take that way. I'm speaking life and prosperity into my people. But what I am saying is the reason why the diagnosis is important is because it makes the imperative of what you're saying to do more necessary. The reason why we have to do it is because of that. I'm not asking you to do things and have solidarity with your brothers and sisters for cosmetic reasons. I'm telling you it's the only way. Like what I'm telling you right now, I'm not asking you to do it because it looks better or it feels better. I'm telling you that's the only way. And the other ethnic groups that you brought up, they do have an advantage of having immigrated here, right? And with immigrating to a place, there's a different economic status that you come over to that place.
And they do come under as white.
Right. And you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is what you're saying is so true. And the reason why it's so true is because of the other part. The question is, and this is the question that I feel like you're asking and the question that we ask, how much energy do we spend on which part of it? How much energy do we spend on educating people on what went wrong? And how much energy do we spend on educating and empowering people to do what's right?
Well, I think that of course, there has to be a majority of our energy has to always go into correcting the problem.
Word up, I agree.
Right? Because you can correct the problem without even knowing it. You can just have people working on the solution.
Right.
Right? But the way we get diagnosed matters. And the root of the diagnosing matters. You go to one doctor and they say, yo, you got cancer, right? This is what we need to do. We need to put you on chemo, right? It's going to be 3 to 6 months. You're going to lose your hair. You're going to get sick. They're going to tell you all of these different things. And it can be delivered in a very depressing way, number one.
Sure.
Right? To where, it can make you almost give up. And sometimes they will even tell you, it's stage 3 or whatever, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is how much longer you got to live. Then you may go to somebody else who's a healer, right? They don't consider themselves a doctor because they're not a part of this system where they utilize this lexicon and this is how you deliver this news. Somebody say, all right, here's the issue that you got going on, right? Now, they might even ask you about your lifestyle, right? What are you eating, right? And here are the adjustments that you can make. This is beatable. We've seen this before. These are everything that you need to do in order to beat this thing. This is not a death sentence. It's an adjustment of lifestyle to correct the previous lifestyle you were living and the accumulation of where it led, right? So one of them is almost looking at this as a cultural issue, right? Because this is the way you live, right? And doctors don't adjust your lifestyle. They just want to give you chemo, which is damn near killing you, and it kills more people, right, than actual cancer. So that's why I say there's two different narratives that go on when we give the diagnosis and who gives it and the narrative around it, because what we really need is an adjustment of culture and adjustment of lifestyle, which becomes preventative medicine.
Sure.
So that you're not constantly coming back and we got to rally and we got to have campaigns around cancer, but we never ever talk about the companies. We never talk about the products, the lifestyle, all of these things
affirming what we want. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's imperative that we always go to the root, the culture, the lifestyle. So you don't have to keep coming back to the doctor to constantly diagnose you with this thing. And so my conversation is always, look, if we adjust our culture, which is preventative medicine, right, so that these things won't happen, we're never getting diagnosed with cancer in the first place, right? And that change, and people have to be, I'm always open to learn. If you got something to teach me, I sit and learn. I'm not a person that knows everything. I don't know everything. I'm nowhere near. But it's this thing to where people feel like you said, when you think you're sure about something, and people who have platforms and people who are given prestige and have degrees, they feel like they're so sure that they know everything.
They feel like they're better than you.
Right. And that they can't be corrected by somebody who didn't go through the same thing, or you didn't get a degree, or you didn't get this. It doesn't mean that you're right because you went that way. We see science corrected every single day, right? So my whole thing is we have to change the way we go about diagnosing this thing, and we have to do preventative medicine so that it's not another generation saying, you got cancer. Another generation, you got cancer. I don't want to see somebody on TV telling me I got cancer, but never ever address, hey, all right, listen, let me tell you what my lifestyle was that led to this, right? And we don't have those conversations because corporate sponsors might be connected to the conversation of the preventative medicine.
They got lead in the paint,
Right.
the lead in the gas and all kinds. You know what I mean?
So are we ever being really honest about it? Right.
So this is where the power culture matters, right? So the power culture matters because, like, I feel like what we're essentially talking about right now is, and I don't want to sound hokey about it, but we have to coalesce and inspire each other, right? And people look at inspiration sometimes as this this thing that's free of confrontation or conflict. I mean, you can get inspired by losing. You can get inspired by loss. You can get inspired by the worst that you feel. Like, I would say that we talked about Kobe. Kobe was incredibly inspired by, the losses that he took, right? And by the times that he won. So like when I'm sitting here and I'm talking to somebody, I don't always have to lead a conversation feeling good to feel inspired. Sometimes I'll lead a conversation feeling like, damn, how could it be 43 years on this earth and I didn't know that? Right. Okay, let me go get it together.
I feel like it should be challenged.
Challenge, cool. So how could it be that I'm sitting down and it's people doing this, and I don't know about the CMOS pills, and how am I living without the CMOS pills, and what's the next step? What's the next step? And that has to be not only in your own personal life, because you can do a lot for your community. You can do a lot for your community simply by raising your family. If that's the limit of your capacity.
That's a fact.
If that's the limit of your capacity, not everybody got the capacity to be 19. Not everybody got the capacity
to be Van Jones.
Not every Van Jones. Not every you can do so much for the community just by raising, being present, and being right there for your family.
100% agree.
And I sometimes think that and you talked about it. We talked about it earlier. We really had a good conversation on the phone about sometimes how Black men feel about relating to one another. Right? And if I can make one ask of Black men, I know it's hard. If I can make one ask of Black men, just when you see me, like we all standing up straight, chin to God, everything, when you see me, just see a brother. Just try it. Just try it. I don't want nothing that you got. Nothing. Even if you have an ill opinion of me, let's just talk about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if we have to meet in conflict, let's leave in handshake.
Exactly.
So it's like just, and I know it's difficult because we're sectioned off, we're pitted against one another. It's all over the places. I see brothers, the brothers that you have surrounded yourself with and the people that you know, all of those strong alpha males, strong guys with strong nations around them. I see y'all getting along because you've made the decision to work together in building a community.
And respect each other.
Right.
And there's something about each other that we respect. And disagreement is I don't look at disagreement as a bad thing. It means that there's somewhere where we can learn from each other because we have different perspectives. If we exactly alike, you don't really have much value in the conversation when I'm looking for a difference, right? When if I think about, Van Lathan, and your perspective in a conversation is going to be different from mine. You're going to pull from different root sources of knowledge that's going to come up to, what your beliefs or what your thoughts are. That's valuable to me because I don't think that way. Right. And if I hear you say something a certain way, I'm like, damn, I think about the patterns of the way a man thinks. So I'm not even so much thinking about or putting a value on what is being said, but the thought pattern that comes up and how you think. So I'm like, I don't think like that. Some people speak in stories. Some people speak in quotables. Some people speak in facts. Some people speak in statistics. Right. And I'm always listening to the background that must have been in order for you to get to that point. And that to me is a value because I can learn from that.
What up?
And I can add that onto self. You talked about listening to Malcolm X and be like, yo, I want to, like, Malcolm X always spoke with a certain matter-of-fact tone, right? You never catch him off guard. Minister Farrakhan speaks with a matter-of-fact tone. You don't see him slip up. These examples become fathers, right? I think it was Minister Farrakhan that said it. He said, a father is not just, your biological connection, but it's someone who elevates you. So he said that there are so many people that look at him as a spiritual father because he has elevated them, evolved them, grown them. And when, as men, we look for fathers in different categories. People go always back to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. What was it? That was your financial father. He was elevating the way that you've seen things and done things and expressed things. And so that the world is always looking for a father. We have father figures now that go viral all the time.
Yeah.
What you're looking at is uncle and father figures speak in a certain way. And because that has been missing, it's a value when it's a scarcity, right? And so I knew that I was going to be successful, not just because of who I am, but because of the times, right? And that the perspective is rare. And when something is rare, it's valuable.
It's valuable.
Right?
Inherently, yeah.
Exactly. And so when there's a problem, you got to have a solution. So when I seen, and it was funny because it was when Donald Trump became president. And I was like, oh yeah, y'all gonna need me. Y'all gonna need me. It's about to get ugly outside.
Yeah.
Right? So now that perspective that you were able to shun and be like, oh, that's this or that is that you can put in that box. Now you're like, no, we need more of y'all to speak up. Oh man, everything y'all been saying was true this whole time. Because now you understand the context, right? And it kind of goes back to that thing again, context. And it was like, well, you were able in times of peace and so-called prosperity to ignore the realities. It's not that they wasn't there. And I just kept on speaking upon the realities, even in a time of peace and prosperity, right? Whether there's Obama, whether there's Bill Clinton, no matter what's going on, if there's an underlying reality, just because we feel good about it right now, because we get to ignore it, doesn't ignore the fact that it exists. And there's some people that's always speaking on a reality, regardless of how you feel now, because somebody give you a check or the president is black or we get this new black woman in position or something changed. It's like, okay, we feel better about the reality.
But what matters?
Yeah. So you have to respect people who keep that. And oftentimes they're seen as ahead of their time. And it's only just saying you're not ready to accept reality for what it is. And until you accept reality, you can't change it.
Right.
Because you don't understand it unless you accept it.
Right.
So I just represent that, right? I'm going to hold the line there. I believe you told that line of constantly keeping people in reality, but being empathetic to all perspectives of reality, right? I know when you're speaking to your co-host or you're speaking to the world or you're speaking on these, you understand my perspective, but you also bring an empathetic perspective to where you can create a bridge and a commonality. And then like when you have conversations with somebody like, what's his name, Emmanuel Acho? Acho, you bring him to reality.
Okay, I'll say something about that. Like, so I wasn't trying to get at him like that.
It just what happened, brother.
Yeah, I mean, me and him talked after. I wasn't trying to do that, but there is a moment, and I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm still learning. There is a moment to where sometimes, and this is once again a reason when I say I watch 3 Malcolm X clips, it's the same 3 clips. I have them saved on my YouTube, and I get up and I'll watch them, and I'm brushing my teeth or I'm running. I'll listen to the same thing, trying to ingest it, trying to get it. I don't always meet the moment in the best way. You know, I insulted him. Probably shouldn't have done that.
I didn't watch the full thing. So what was the insult? I just seen correction.
So this is what happened. So he was on the show. He's friends with Rachel, and he said that he gave an example of why he is uniquely qualified to talk to people on his platform, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And what he said was that he is good in Black areas, right? And he's good in white areas because of where he grew up. And because he's Nigerian, he doesn't have the generational trauma that Black people have. So he goes into the conversations.
FBA would love that.
Less abrasive. I'm sorry, that pissed me off. Like I don't need. First of all, I had watched all of his clips, and I'm definitely not trying to insult him again. I had watched all of his clips, bruh. There are times, obviously, I'm not saying I'm in the bed anyway, where I haven't met the moment. There are times when you want to learn, I would have said that different, or just the fact that I was at TMZ for so long. I'm not looking down on him, but I'm like, in my mind, when that happens, like my like glitches, and I go, nah, like I'm like, you don't have generational trauma, so that means that you can speak about my life to the oppressors of me in a way that makes them feel okay about talking about it. That's not the goal. The goal is to I get what the reason why I hemmed and hawed when you first said it, number one, is because I don't want to be a part of minimizing him. And the second thing is I get what he was trying to say. What he was trying to say was, well, if somebody puts you in that position, Van, it's particularly after the death of George Floyd, there might be a part of you that has all of this deep South Louisiana animus to it, to where it's not going to be as productive or constructive as it should be. And I don't have that, so I could do that. Number one, I disagree that my Nigerian brother doesn't have any intergenerational trauma with everything that was going on there. And secondly, I just think it's a bad way to pose that, and a weird thing to say to an American descendant of slaves.
It's no point of having a Black man in that position if you don't have any connection to the position. You might as well get an Asian man.
You can get anybody.
You can get anybody. That's basically what you're saying. But you can't represent yourself as a Black man, but have no connection to the experience of a Black man, right? Because then you're saying that I'm going to be your Black face, right? And you're almost an imposter in that sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because now you're characterizing as if this is a Black man that is connected, right? But you're saying I have no connection. So you're saying that, listen, I can give the appearance, right, of a Black man having this conversation, but in reality, I have no connection to the conversation, right? So what is the point of having the appearance if you don't have the connection? Otherwise, we'll have somebody that has just no connection. We don't need the appearance. Right. So it's not a Black man having a conversation. It's somebody who has no connection to it having a conversation, which is the same as any other diverse group of people that you want to put in that position. Right. Might as well be a white man or a white woman if that's the case. The point of having a Black man is having somebody who has the connection.
And honestly, that's what I should have said. But I said that he was an emotional butler for white people. And so
I like that too.
I shouldn't have said that.
Sometimes I'm a little too articulate. I like the way you said
that. I shouldn't have insulted him.
Well, I don't know the brother, so I'm not speaking on him personally, but I'm speaking on the principles of this conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that is micro to what happens a lot in media.
Right.
Even this whole thing where, and first of all, I always want to context this. I love all my brothers from the UK and the diaspora and things of that nature.
It's not about that. Yeah.
But we constantly see them playing Black Americans And it's like when media or Hollywood finally catches up to tell the stories of Black Americans, they don't get Black Americans to portray, right? And it's this thing where it's like you want the Black face, but you don't want
to be Black
culture.
enough.
You don't want the experience.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody connected to it. So it's kind of like, you know, it's like giving reparations to everybody but us.
They don't want us to have nothing. They were
I agree with that.
And so, last thing I'll say.
I think it was the brother, what was his name? Robert Domingo or something?
Coleman Domingo.
And he's a great actor, you know, and after Jonathan Majors, you know, did his Dr. King stint, you know, and they kicked him off. The Robert Domingo brother is playing, he's playing Michael Jackson's father. They've been doing this over and over, and I haven't cracked the code of this conspiracy just yet. But when you see an obvious pattern, you know what I mean? Then it's a reality. It's not something that a person is just imagining, right? And it's nothing wrong. Like, I wouldn't even have known that these weren't Black men from America that's connected to these stories. But it's like, why is Hollywood constantly casting people? And I think the reality is kind of like with hip hop. And you see this with the sisters in Hollywood that was talking about contract issues and things of that nature. And it's like, when you go into South Korea, in Seoul or whatever, they are taking hip hop and they are expressing hip hop, but without Black people, right? And you go to different parts of the world, they're taking the culture, but minus Black people. So now the culture is being shipped all around. Everybody gets to utilize it, right? But give Black people nothing. But the culture is built from our trauma. It's built from our experiences. It's built from our expressing ourselves, trying to get to some liberation. But it's almost that they mocking us. You know what I mean? Constantly over and over and over and over and over. And this is why, even though people don't like Tariq Nasheed in the sense that they say he's divisive, but there is a very valid point that he makes about constantly keeping foundational Black American history, right, in check, to be like, no, it's something world owes us specifically.
That's the thing.
And you can't just group us with the whole diaspora until we get ours.
We talked about this before. It doesn't have to be something that's intrinsic, it doesn't have to be something that's at its base divisive. It is an intellectual understanding of something, right? An intellectual understanding of something. It doesn't have to be minimizing. There doesn't have to be hierarchy to it. It's an intellectual understanding of something. It's an intellectual understanding that the experience of Black American descendants of slaves here is unique.
Yeah.
Here. Now the experience of our brothers in England is unique there.
But everybody benefits from us.
I get it.
The difference is we don't benefit from everybody else.
I understand that. What I'm saying is this is what I'm saying. I'm saying,
and I got a Ethiopian and a Nigerian on the team.
No.
So
bro,
we the United Nations over here.
I'm look, it's nothing. It's all love.
My Igbo brother, you know what I'm talking about?
It's all
Haile Selassie over there.
It's all love. But what I'm saying is, like, when we talk about that feeling of uncomfortability to, hey, I would like to see Fred Hampton played by a Black American.
100%.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I would like to see. So when we talk about that, that's not to minimize Daniel or not to minimize any of those are great people at all. It's saying this.
But also you want that wealth in your community. That wealth is not in our community if it's not by us.
I'm saying we paid for it.
Yeah. But even more that economically. Like if it's not somebody who looks like us, I mean, not somebody who comes from our collective, that's not when, and then other people use this as talking points. Black people is progressing, Black people doing this in Hollywood. It's like, wait a minute. Those not even Black Americans. So even if that wealth
there are a lot of Black Americans.
There are a lot, but but they group everything in one category, but we don't always benefit. But on the other side, when people want to use that as an argument for progress, we like, wait a minute, you also have to let's scale this back a little bit, right? Because we're not getting those contracts. You know what I mean? That money doesn't circulate in our communities, so it's not easy differentiated. And I think that, like, Tariq Nasheed's biggest argument is the fact that when there's an issue with Africans, you're Black. But when there's progress, you're Nigerian, you're Ethiopian, you're Ghanaian, right? You win the award, it's for Nigeria. But you get arrested, you're a black man that's being discriminated. I believe that's part of the basis of this conversation, and also when it comes to the package of reparations. But I understand that as well when you're talking about, all right, let's say, Jonathan Majors is out. Then you bring in a Domingo brother. That's not money that's circulated in the black community. You know what I'm saying? That's not our economic growth. That's not our progress.
You're saying because Coleman Domingo is Afro-Latino.
Yeah, and not to specifically, dial him out, because I'm
use it as an example.
I'm really using this as an example, right? But I think about that and it's like, what is that thing? Because it's like, imagine if all of a sudden there's 20 black actresses that get paid the highest grossing contract in the history of, film, but they're African women from Ghana that may live in Ghana or from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the black woman, the black American experience still. Right? But we get grouped up all together because now you can say, no, look, what you talking about? I ain't got no problem with black people. We ain't talking about, do you have a problem with black Americans specifically, right? And so I think that it is a valid point when you talk about foundational black American and talking about our experience, right? Specifically, and especially when you're talking about people who get these and they're not marrying black on black. Like you talked about this, the Target campaigns. Go to any airport, you don't see no black families.
It's something there's allergic to it. It's like after a while, it's funny. After a while, I'm watching the commercial. I watched the commercial a couple of days ago. Like I'm watching the commercial. I'm like, I was joking when I said it, but I'm like, yo, you mean to tell me, like, I don't know, you don't just get up with your black wife and your 2 black kids and just go to Kmart?
That's crazy.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what's the deal?
But they're pushing the idea this is the new family.
But
right?
they're also dipping their toe into blackness,
but I think that's what Hollywood does. This is the new black America.
I know,
and it's like, no, you have to specifically send those checks to us if you want us to count that as progress.
So unpopular opinion. That's
really the whole point.
Something like what my.
But also, let's do business with Africans.
We doing it's
more business.
All of this, man.
My African brothers, bring me all the business.
Pan-African Film Festival happening in a couple of. It's just
Pan-African Film Festival. Tap in.
So you're crazy. So, so particularly, you look at this stuff, it doesn't have to be what Tariq and what even the ADOS people are doing. The first time I ever heard this was like, once again, from my dad, like, I call home, oh man, Obama got elected. It's amazing. My dad goes, great. That's amazing. I'm like, what's wrong? And my dad was like, see? If that motherfucker was named Malcolm Johnson Jr. and he was from South Louisiana or Miami or Chicago or someplace like that, he's like, then y'all have something. He was like, I'm not stepping on you, son. That matters. That's a black man. But he goes, and I was mad. Cause I'm thinking at that point, I'm 28. I'm like, yo, man.
Yeah, you want to just count it as a win.
Why this guy always, because he always coming through with some uncomfortable wisdom. Yeah. Like, why are you always raining on it? Why don't you just like say, hey, son, and cry with me? He's like, boy, every time, boy, that's something else.
I knew what they call always wait for the other shooter.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm letting you know. What he's saying is, I get it, but it's different. It's different. I get it, but it's different. And there are certain markers and certain things that mean different things. And a real sort of, reckoning on that is when somebody whose lineage is connected to that runs the country. Now, once again, Michelle Obama was in the White House. So Barack Obama's kids and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to establish hierarchy. What I'm talking about and what you're talking about is a specific need for specific people. And those needs are different. The beauty of the diaspora is that we're not the same. And just to be honest with you, it's like, it is true. It is a situation that, I have conversations with some of my African friends and they'll drop their nuts on you. Like they'll like, you know what I mean? They'll talk about, and I love that. That's the strength of their culture. The strength of their culture is that they understand. I talked to one of my homeboys, very, very, very prominent guy, great with money, right? And he's talking about the fact we're all sitting around, we're in the backyard. He's talking about the place. He's from Ghana. So he says, the thing with me is, growing up, when I went to the doctor, it was a black doctor. When I looked at the president, it was a black president. When I looked at the police, it was black police.
Right.
When I looked at all of this stuff, he's like, so my worldview on all of this stuff is different. He's explaining, even though, and this is the guy that's handling the money. So he's explaining, even though we are the same, there are differences. And so if there are differences, then there are specialities in that need to be adjusted. And
different ethnic groups.
And I don't think nobody should have a problem with that.
No, but when you grow up
Tariq is a firebrand though. He likes to get it going.
But when you grow up in an African country and everybody around you is black, but you know that they got the same background as you, right? You're not saying, like, it's not going to be a black American that's going to come and become president of Ghana, right? Or Nigeria, right?
Remember there was a Meek tried to shoot remember when Meek shot a video at the president's house?
Oh, yeah. You talking about when they stole his phone?
Well, no, they stole his phone before.
Oh, they stole it before.
It was the same trip. They stole his phone,
Yeah.
and then he shot a video in the president's house.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't having that.
Yeah.
Nah.
But see, those be the cultural differences. But and this doesn't really speak towards, to me, it don't speak towards the divide between blacks and Africans. It's more so about them and how they're contexting everybody and putting everybody in the box. Mm-hmm. When black Americans would be like, it's like some African brother moved to your neighborhood after 20 years and, somebody comes and decide to give them a grant, right? And it'd be like, we don't count that as you giving us a grant. We count that as you giving an immigrant a grant, right? It has nothing to do with me and that person's relationship, but I'm telling you still haven't done nothing for us yet because that doesn't count to our stats, right? And this is what they're doing. And they're not doing anything for us, but they're grouping in the whole diaspora and saying y'all should be happy of their progress. And they're saying, but that doesn't represent ours, right? And shout out to my Nigerians because they get money in America.
They do that thing.
Nigerian is a wealthy group in America. They get into the paper.
Wealthy and also incredibly educated.
Yeah, incredibly educated. That's why I work on my Nigerian brother over there. I didn't even know he was Nigerian for a while. He hid that fact from me.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Just play it. Shout out to him at you. No, but I really want us to understand that when we having these conversations, it's not divisiveness between us. We're speaking on how the system, right, is really creating divisiveness between us. Because you're stepping in, it's like you have issues in corporate and, they say, well, hey, you're the radical black man. We're going to get another black man instead. Like, no, that's not you now warming up to black people. That's you finding somebody who's safe that you can put in a position that you can control.
It's a trick bag. Yeah.
Right. It's a big old trick bag. So it's like when, and this is something that I want us to constantly continue to push. When we talk about black Americans, foundational black Americans, when we talk about whether you believe that we have African lineage or you believe that we are Native Americans or you believe that we are Moorish Americans, right? Our specific plight has to be dealt with. When we talk about us creating unity and us creating bridges across the diaspora, that's a completely different conversation.
Right.
It's
its own thing.
Yeah. We're saying that now we've gotten to this point where, we want to create those connections because I believe that we should 100% do business with Africa. Africa is a growing continent and the countries in it are getting this investment and everybody around the world knows that Africa, because they got the youngest population, because you can go build these futuristic cities over there, right? You see the CIA is doing a whole tour in Africa right now.
Of course.
So
Chinese as well.
There's no reason to not work with our African brothers. You know what I mean? And I believe that this is the greatest opportunity in the now. If we wait 10 years from now and to realize this is going to be too late and we're going to complain about everybody else who went and created opportunities and partnerships. It's the best opportunity on the planet right now. Take our specialties, take our opportunities, our knowledge, and go over there and help create business, help create infrastructure. That's the thing. But we not gonna let y'all get away with the same trick bag and make it seem like y'all making progress with us when y'all always go try to outsource somebody else to play us. That's how y'all play us.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Triple entendre.
All right. This has been a super high level conversation.
Yes, sir.
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm glad I came through. I'm glad we finally got it done.
Yeah.
Brother.
I'm glad it took us some while. I had to go through some loopholes to get this brother. I had to get somebody who was in Barack Obama's old cabinet.
That's not.
You know what I mean? To
Hey,
reach
I
out
was
to
on
his
it, like,
press
you-
secretary
you
that knew somebody that
when
used to
you-
work at TMZ,
when
that
he
knows
had to-
somebody that now work at Spotify,
when he
that
started
knew a
it,
white
I
guy
was on
to
the
contact
road
Van.
with you know what? When she hit me this week, I was like, I don't care whatever day you talk about it, I'm gonna be there because we've been had to have this conversation.
I got one last question for you.
Go for it.
This damn product right here got too much stuff in it. It got black seed oil, got cannabinoids, it got lion's mane, and it's 1,000 milligrams, right? It's an ounce of black seed oil, got MCT oil, 1 ounce, 0.5 grams of lion's mane powder. I think that's too much. This right here have your brain super focused and charged all damn day. I took this and I was working from the beginning of the day literally to midnight. Now I got a lot of stuff done, but I shouldn't have been that charged up. I don't think that the products should work that well. So I don't think that you should take this if you don't want to get a lot of stuff done throughout the whole day, because everything in here is amazing for you, but I think it's too much ingredients. I feel like you're supposed to take that kind of stuff where it give you a little charge and it had you smooth throughout the day, but not like where you just going and going and going and going. I guess the good part about it is everything is natural and everything is good for you, and it's probably the best thing you can put in your system. But beyond that, unless you got a lot of work to get done throughout that day and you want your mind to be relaxed and you just going supercharged all day long, don't take Supermind. That's my suggestion. Is hip hop still hip hop? Like when you see somebody like Playboy Cardi, is he hip hop? Right? And I asked that question because hip hop has evolved so far from what its original culture and expression was. Does it still get to be added into the continuity of what hip hop is? Or is it this new genre of music that hasn't been classified, so it's just been thrown into the box of hip hop?
So let me tell you why it's difficult for me to answer. It's difficult for me to answer because the fundamentals of hip hop music, I'm less knowledgeable on. What I know is that music evolves and expression evolves, but a lot of times I hear stuff and it don't sound like rap to me. It don't sound like hip hop to me. It sounds foreign. It's so influenced by other things because remember, you know, some of these people are listening to Kraftwerk. They're listening to all kinds of different things, different things from overseas, and that can elevate a genre, right? When you hear Late Registration, Kanye goes against John Bryan to play keys on Late Registration, and so if you listen to Portishead or Fiona Apple or any of those other, you know, alternative things, Tom York, any of that stuff, you hear it, but it's the underlay of this musicianship over the beats that you got, the rhymes that you got. Very familiar cultural expression. There is a point where I get to stuff and I just don't understand it. I guess the question would be if you ask like Ninth Wonder, or if you ask like Pete Rock, or if you ask like any of those guys, if you ask Sway from there in Northern California.
Oakland to be exact.
Like one of the most knowledgeable guys, if you ask Premier, the question would be would they think it was hip hop? Because they're so knowledgeable in the music, in the sonic profiles, they can say, well, let me tell you, like I interviewed Manny Fresh. And Manny Fresh was telling me about New Orleans bounce music. And the culture where I'm from, and I'm from Baton Rouge, but we all listen to bounce music, South Louisiana. The culture where I'm from is so distinct.
It is. Y'all be calling each other B words and all kinds of stuff.
That's less in Baton Rouge. That's kind of a New Orleans thing.
That's
but
a New Orleans thing?
Yeah, but it's love. But they are cousins. But it's like that, when I listened to him talk about it, he was telling me about their influences. And their influences was this very, very bass heavy New York stuff. And they took that stuff, and y'all can go listen. This is what Manny said. I'm not saying that New Orleans bounce was a derivative of New York stuff. He told me that. And I would have never thought that. I thought that stuff would have come from some of the up-tempo type of New Orleans, South type. I would have never thought that is. but he's telling me the beginnings of it because he's one of the fathers of it. And so I can't break it down like that. All I know is it don't feel like hip hop to me. You know what I'm saying? It don't feel, because even when the genre expands, trap still felt like hip hop, right?
Right. Because I think it was still expressing the culture.
Right. It's that, like, a lot of this stuff still felt like hip hop.
Like it can be party music and still be hip hop because it's still curating a vibe for it. It's still expressing. When you listen to some of this stuff, it don't even feel like it's coming from our culture at all.
Whereas it feels alien. It doesn't feel like nothing. I'm not trying to, by the way, I sound so old. I'm not trying to.
I don't think that, I think it's funny. I think it's up to date when you give commentary. People always say, oh, we're doing an observation on what it is today.
Right.
Right. Versus what it was. So you can, because if you were in a coma from 1990 to 2023 and you woke up and somebody told you this is hip hop, it's not.
It's like, it's a bunch of niggas, man.
And it'd be a lot for you to have to explain, to be like, this is what happened along the way. Like if hip hop was a child that grew up and it went through all of these phases, right? This phase would be considered something completely different.
So
it went through a hip hop phase, you probably would have said.
Right. So give you an example. Like, so when Thug first came out, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then the more I listened to Thug,
the
more I was like, oh my God. Like Thug feel like an old school blues singer in a way. His voice is the instrument. And so it's like, so even all the stuff he was doing, it sounded very familiar because of like the blues music and the stuff that I would listen to down south. It feels like that. Then there were people that were influenced by him that did bad versions of it.
Yeah, taking
and then it just became syllable.
Yeah, but
over really
say,
dark beats, and I kind of don't get it no more.
But that's why I can say somebody like Thug. So you take trap music, take things of that nature. It's still expressing the culture from a different perspective, right? It's almost like the Atlanta perspective or the new age Atlanta perspective. Some of this people be like, I'm trying to be a rock and roll star, right? But everything always gets thrown under the umbrella of hip hop. So even when you see things that, when they go all the way out and they intentionally do it differently, but their record label still categorize it as hip hop. Now hip hop has to take the hit for anything and everything.
Anything that's any message that's
almost like anything that black people does.
Right.
You know what I mean? And being black is not to say you hip hop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a
and that's
distinction
why
within.
we don't get those distinctions.
Yeah.
And then we don't distinct from the industry, which is the business of it, which is completely different driver of what the expression of it, because now everybody has to monetize their platforms and what they speak about. And so they learn the science of, I have to make a song like this versus this what I want to say. Right? So those become two completely different things, because hip hop was about people going in there and trying to get as real as possible and trying to be themselves as much as possible and then making a record off of that. But now it's like we scientists with it. So when I think about somebody like Thug and some of the new cats, they're like scientists. They go in there and be like, yo, this will work. Let me experiment with this. And they look at what works and then they go and repeat the formula. And it's like they hacking, right? Versus making music. Right. So I think of it as something that has morphed into more of a science, right? Than more of magic.
The more
hip hop started off as magic.
Yeah. You have a problem with that?
Not necessarily. I listen to all kind of different hip hop. I think that we should have these categories where we name it something different though. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You feel me? I think that if we decide to start, because when you say hip hop, you think about something that start off from you ideally start off a foundation of these values that represents us as a culture.
Right.
But when you have things that are anti-culture, right? Or things that just for money, or things that the industry decides that, hey, this gonna work good in the algorithm, it shouldn't be, in my opinion, considered hip hop itself, right? Because you can rap and not be hip hop.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's like, people rhyme in all categories of music.
Yeah, Beyonce be rapping.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that this is a rapper per se, but you can be a rapper and not be hip hop. We see that in country. We see that in all sort of things. So I just believe that it's important because hip hop represents the culture, good or bad, right? When we export hip hop, they think of that as black people,
right?
And it's like, no, that's this person's campaign that put up money behind this, that think this work in this time, that they want to influence these white kids over here that feel like it works on TikTok because people go dance to it. Right. Or they feel like because it's anti-hip hop and a person is going against the norm of what may be masculine or paint your nails black or whatever it is, these other children who feel socially distant as well and awkward, they're going to relate to this because they're anti-establishment.
Right.
So it's like everything shouldn't just be thrown under the bunch, especially when people are specifically being anti-hip hop on purpose. It should also still be called hip hop.
Right. I wonder that's interesting. That's actually fascinating. I had never even considered that, but I'm telling you, for me, it's like when I think about I rarely, bro, like there are new artists that I listen to, but I mean, if I was to bring up Tidal and I'm listening to, bro, I'm listening to 400 Degrees this morning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, it's like the stuff that I'm listening to now, like I'm really in my old era.
Yeah.
Like it's
well, we listen to things that are nostalgic to us. And this is why people are doing all of these remakes of movies and songs, is because if you grew up, and what, you a boomer? What generation?
The boomers were born in the 40s. They were born in the 40s and the 50s, bro.
My bad.
Bro,
my bad.
I was born in 1980.
My bad. What?
That's God. How come y'all tell me this was high-level jokes?
Yo,
this God. Well, I'm a boomer. The boomers is 1945. God damn.
I was just trying to categorize you correctly. My bad, brother. No, but what I was saying is they say scientifically, right? They've done these studies about music, and if you the music that you grew up with is what you're most connected to, right? So people do these remixes of sounds because it connects them to the music.
Push you back
while
there.
I was growing up, it brings you back to that feeling. It brings you back to that nostalgia. So now there's a lot of nostalgia music out there because they realize you can sell that to a group of people. And at least a certain group of people go connect to that. They're going to listen to it. They're going to spin it. We can make money off that. Right? And that's why the mixtape era was so beautiful to me, because that was a time where rappers get to go in there and they said what was on their heart. They said what was on their mind. They was going based on, yo, this is my talent. This is my skill. I want to out rap. Lil Wayne came out and he was like, I'm going to pick everybody beat and I'm just going to go crazy.
And punish them on it.
That was a different era. Now, they don't even truly get to express their real thoughts because they worrying about the numbers. Right. So it's less based on the expression. It's less based on the art, and it's more about the numbers and about the business. And that changes music and what it is. So we like things from our era because we connected to it. It doesn't make you old. There's going to be a certain time when this generation is going to like things from this era.
They're only going to listen to Thug and Cardi. Yeah.
And it's because it becomes harder to like something new because you don't have a connection to it. Right. You're already, ingrained in who you are. And so you like, nah, I don't connect to this unless you purposely try to keep yourself young by staying up to date and forcing yourself to listen to these things to connect to the perspective of this era and this generation, which I do, because I don't want to be outdated, but then sometimes stuff goes so far where it's like, I don't even want to connect to whatever feeling this is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if hip hop goes through some weird, well, here we are there. Hip hop goes through a weird demon rock era, right? Which where a lot of rappers are at right now. I don't want to connect to that. I understand what that is. It's anti-establishment. People are like, culture, society-wise, people are against the government. So anything anti-establishment, people are for, right? Candidates, music, brands, whatever, they push that out there because they know the feelings. They study the people, and this stuff is based on quantitative data now. So it's like, being outdated, right, is not a real thing. It's just I'm in connection to things that are nostalgic from my era.
And that I feel you.
Yeah.
I get it.
But I want to thank you, brother, for coming on my show.
No problem, man.
Having this high-level conversation, young man. I appreciate
That's
you.
a workout, baby. That's what I'm talking about. I got it. What is this? I got it popping over here, man. That's a workout. We went around the world and came back again, man. I really appreciate the conversation,
yes,
brother.
Sir. That's
real,
the
man.
high-level experience.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for constantly pushing the envelope out there, and just being the outlier.
Appreciate it, man.
You know what I mean? I think where your voice exists, you exist in between these worlds. You feel me? And you get to see stuff on that side and tell it to this side.
Right.
Sometimes you like, okay, I see what they thinking. Then sometimes you be like, listen, I know I was cool on that last subject, but on this one, y'all tripping.
Right.
You feel me? And we need people like that because you become a bridge.
I appreciate that, brother.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Peace, family. This has been your high level conversations. Tap in next time.
I'm 19 Keys, and this is high level conversation. Tap in with the guys.
So, in my opinion, right now, to influence politics, you'd have to be a system breaker. The political system that we adhere to now is so deeply entrenched, and so geared towards power and maintaining that power, that to make an actual change, you would probably have to be someone that was a disruptor on the side of a politician, or someone that could in some way command a large enough group of people to hold politicians accountable directly by moving people to move their votes other places. If you get inside the political system, you're beholden to a donor base. You're beholden to a bunch of different rules that at this point just don't, to me, incentivize people's power. So I would say the best way for someone to really wield political power is to be someone. I want you guys to look at somebody up. A guy by the name of Leonard Leo, who started this far-right institution called the Federalist Society. This is somebody who leverages political power in an insane way by putting politicians in different places and getting them to do what he wants them to do, by making them who he wants them to be, and by controlling things from behind the scenes. Because once you become the figurehead, you got too many hands out. So I think we need a Leonard Leo that's black, a mover and shaker that can wield that type of power that's behind the scenes on the side of somebody, and that can actually be advocating for us, who doesn't have to take the hits on CNBC or Fox News or CNN.
I think that we need all different varying, as he put it, a diaspora of intellect and media that represents different perspectives, and never just one. You know, I think he's somebody that can be in the room, but also have, you know, a rooted perspective and what the streets think, what the culture think. You feel me? Or an elevated perspective, you know, what somebody like me may think about it. I think in that moment where he had with Kanye West, I believe he was trying to, you know, be that perspective in a room so that media wasn't damaging. And instead, he wanted to create that moment to where he made sure that he wasn't going alone to get along, but he felt passionate, really deeply passionate, that what Kanye West was saying wasn't the right message to push, right? Whether you agree on whatever side that you want to and what you believe that Kanye West was saying about us being slave, that part don't matter. But we do need black people in media that push that line. We do need black people that, you know, may bring up somebody that you may not want them to, and that may be a countable offense to the powers that be, but they're willing to toe that line. And he's done that over and over and over in his career, from having Rizza Islam on and, you know, a multitude of different things where people then targeted him in his career. But if you don't have people that do that, you know, then you only get this one perspective of safe black media. And we don't need that. We need disruptive. We need truth tellers. We need people that do have passion and that don't hold their tongue, regardless if you believe they're right or wrong. We need representation of that diaspora thought or the diversity of thought. And I think he's somebody that represents that. I don't think that, you know, I always disagree with him at all. I often, you know, say things and, you know, I might call him or I might send a post, and he knows that we disagree. But he's willing to have that conversation. Everybody's not willing to have that conversation. Some people are afraid of disagreement. Some people are afraid of fellowship and conversation after a disagreement. And he's not one of those people. You feel me? So I think that it's important to have people that are, you know, that may be able to excel and be high up in media and don't mind being corrected, or at least having a conversation about correction.
I think how we want to be portrayed by the media is a community that represents people with varying different lifestyles, varying different values, very different ways to accomplish things. We want to be seen as individuals and as people. And we want, essentially, our humanity to be accessed and recognized in a way that reflects who we really are, because we know who we are. Like, we see the best of ourselves every single day. We see ourselves trying to help, we see ourselves trying to empower each other. But typically, the media's cultural ignorance of Black people, and really most other cultures besides the dominant white culture, is to the degree that they don't know when they're hurting. They don't know when they're off. And even when they do know, the sensitivity isn't there for them to care about authentic portrayals. Example, there's a level of power that you can attain in America where incompetence or insincerity is tantamount to evil. To where you're doing something wrong or you doing something fake, you're so powerful that the impact on people is incredibly significant, and it might as well be evil. People die, people get thrown in jail. I think the media is in that bag. I think with other groups, they care about how they portray those groups. They care about the truth of those groups' experience. And they have more cultural education on those groups because they interact with them more. I think from what I've seen is, one, they don't really care whether or not something hurts our feelings. We're not important enough to them. And then number two, they don't know what hurts our feelings because they're not invested enough into who we are and what it is that we do. We're not seen as a part of Americana enough for that to be a thing. So because of that, you have a double whammy of misrepresentation. So I think what Black people want is just to be covered as people. And I think what the media wants is to cover them as Black.
I mean, I think anything can be righteous if the integrity of what it's supposed to be is protected. Media, is content. Media, depending on the owners of media or the person who controls that platform, depends on their intentions and the system that they set up around those values and intentions, right? If it's money driven, then I don't think it can be. If media is money driven and controlled by money, it cannot be righteous. And it's not to say that you can't make a profit with it, but I'm saying when that profit, right, gets in front of principles, then that's when the morality is out the door. Because you may stop a story because it may mess with the money, but the whole foundation and principles that you're building your reputation and your brand on is based on actually pushing those kind of stories. So you have a false sense of trust with the people when the money is really controlling you and not the truth and the integrity. But I think that it's more so about people and the owners of media taking it upon themselves to be intentional with making sure that the principle and the truth, right, and this journalistic integrity is the highest priority and not the profit. But at the same time, I want people to understand this. High-level conversations is conversations. That's what it is. I want everybody to always fact check us. I want everybody to do their own research. I have conversations with people to get different perspectives and different opinions, right? I'm not saying the one that's sitting in this chair is the right one. I'm not saying that was the wrong one. I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it. It's an opportunity for us to bounce ideas and perspectives off each other. And the goal of high-level conversations is to make you think, right? I think the brother Van Lathan, I think at his heart and at his core, I think he's a good brother. And he's just like every other Black man in America and every other Black woman in America or every other brown person that's working to make a way, right? And to build a career, to live a certain quality of life, and figuring out how do I infiltrate, how do I be in position while at the same time bringing my morals with me, right? Everybody don't have to agree. You don't. A lot of people don't agree with me. And there's people who watch this that disagree, but still watch it because they may disagree, but they're not ignorant, right? And they're not intolerant of different views and different opinions. And I believe that when we stop taking things so emotional and so personal, then we can actually get somewhere because you can work with people that you disagree with for a common cause. right? And somebody like Van or anybody else that's in positions of media, I can work with you. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on anything besides, the fact that we can be mutually beneficial for each other of some sort of value. And I think that we as a diaspora have to stop taking things so personal all of the time. And then I think we'll be able to build. There's not that many media personalities that get that many views or impression or have that sort of platform that's even respected. So while we're making videos going at each other or conspiracy videos or videos that always trying to throw the next person under the rug and make ourselves look good, you could reach out for a conversation, right? And then sometimes you got to be patient. That person may be busy or that person may not want to talk about that subject you want to talk about yet. But that doesn't mean that you throw a tantrum and then we start going at each other. Like, I think that that's weak, right? And I think that that decreases the power of what media is in the first place. So I believe that we have to be in a mature place in order to use media in its correctness, but it requires patience. Otherwise, we become our own pressures because we use our platforms against each other because we only, and here's the hardest thing about success in Black America, is that your biggest critics, right, is always going to be your people. Always. And I think that we need to start with empathy first. We need to start with understanding first, right? If you have the ability to reach out to that person, reach out before you say anything about them. I believe that that should be the goal. Now, I ain't saying that's what we gonna always do or what we always have to do. Sometimes we can comment on things that's public and give our opinion, but it shouldn't be from this place of vitriol. It shouldn't be from this place of hate. We shouldn't just be trying to capitalize or bringing somebody else down. There should be a code of conduct and integrity on how we use our platforms. And that's something for you to think about. It's not on me or anybody else to force on you. You have to think about the type of person you are and what you do and are your values in connection to the way you utilize your platform. Earning your crown is just about showing up, believing that you deserve it every single day and striving. There's no such thing as perfection, but there is a process to perfecting. And when you're putting on that crown, it's a representation of your chieftain, representation that you are moving in that cosmic order and you believe in your own power and existence, that we're going for liberation, freedom, justice, equality, and we can't have no peace until we get that. So we step outside with the representation of the sun, moon, and stars, representing that we rule our universe. We're not ruled by the universe because we are in flow and in conjunction with the times, and we are in alignment with the signs of the divine, and we wear those every single day. Whether you got one of the Shea era crowns, the top crowns, or whether you have the crowns that we tie in through the ritual as a representation of putting on the crown as you adorn yourself before you step outside. Make sure you got your crown so they know who you are. Royalty, inside and out. This is Crown Society. Become a part of it.